7:30. We have five.
I'm at 7:30 right now. Amy, please call a roll.
We have 7 members. 6.
Mr. Fuller,
Mr. Fuller.
John? Huh? No.
He's here.
Yeah, we can.
yeah.
How about John, raise your hand to be, that you're here. There we go.
His mic is on.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I can hear him.
Mr. DeLumo, Mr. Malta,
Yeah.
Mr. Manel,
Hello.
Mr. Good, Mr. Van Wagner, Mr. Worrell,
Here.
Mrs. Beal,
Here.
Mr. Maney,
Here.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Here.
Chairman Shephaka. Chairman Shephaka.
Here. I have 7. I have 7 altogether, Amy. Is that it?
Everyone, turn off your mic if you're not using them. Thank you. Mr. Giacomo, could you please turn your mic off? Thank you.
Okay. I won't ask you to stand, but I'll salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Chairman's statement and the notice for the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act law for this meeting have been satisfied with a copy of the notice having been sent to the Asbury Park Press, Coaster, and filed with the Office of Township Clerk July 27, 2020. Board policy: no new cases will be started after 10 p.m. No new testimony will be taken after 10:30. In addition, applicants will be limited to 45 minutes of testimony. All meetings will be videotaped on the Township of Ocean Community Cable Channel, Channel 22 on Verizon Fios, and Channel 27 at 77 on Cablevision. Resolution and memorialization. Mark, can I offer all these at once? Mark?
Amy, they were all done with the same vote.
Okay.
They were. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to offer all 4 at once. Jeffrey Barnes, Block 33, Lot .13, Lot 3, 8 Klein Street, Oakhurst, bulk variance approval. Andrew and Darlene Childs, Block 124, Lot 3, 1304 Sunset Avenue, Wanamass, bulk variance approval. James and Leslie Dodge, Block 124, Lot 1, 1303 South Wanamassa Drive, Wanamassa bulk variance approval. Joseph Russo, Block 3.03, Lot 35, 5 Branch Road, or Oakhurst, certificate of use approval. Someone please offer.
Worrell will offer.
Second. Malta seconds. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Aye.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shephaka.
Yes. Okay, cases carried.
Wait one
Henry,
second. Mr. Shephaka, I want you to note that Mr. Van Wagner just walked into the meeting.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was trying to get on my computer, had some issues. Sorry about that.
Good evening, Mr. Van Wagner.
Good evening. So sorry about that.
That's okay. Cases carried to May 20th, 2021 on Zoom. We're changing our platform to Zoom from GoToMeeting starting May 20th, 2021. Morris Dweck, I'm going to read these one by one. Morris Dweck.
This one, Henry, not to interrupt you, for the public, you'll carry them. The address for the Zoom is on tonight's agenda, which is posted online, and it will be on the May 20th agenda, which will be posted online.
Correct.
There will be no further notice or publication to the surrounding property owners or the general public. These meetings are being carried just to basically another venue, if you will. But in virtual reality, that is another type of whatever it is. So it's going to be on Zoom and not go to meeting. And if you want to attend any of these that are being carried to the 20th, you need to get that address. Again, it's on tonight's agenda at someplace where the adjournments are. And it's also going to be on the May 20th agenda. But other than that, the public will not be notified.
It's just another virtual platform that we're going to use for right now. Okay, so that being said, May 20th, 2021 on Zoom, Morris Dweck, Block 43, Lot 1.2, 300 Parker Avenue, Deal Park. Kenneth Greenspan, Block 22, Lot 90, 204 West Morgan Avenue, Ocean. William Larkin, Block 25.07, Lot 12, 190 Belmar Avenue, Oakhurst. 2112 Highway 35 Associates LLC, Block 3.01, Lot 6, 7, and 8, 2112 Highway 35 Ocean. Morris and Marcy Tibble, Block 17, Lot 29, 225 Lewis Street, Ocean. David Mizrahi, Block 12.05, Lot 14, 269 Lawrence Avenue, Ocean. Seaview Corporate Park, Block 149.01, Lot 1.01, 2603 Route 66, Ocean. Jesse Schomer, Block 12.06, Lot 4, 9 Burger Avenue, Ocean. Christopher Tallis, Block 121, Lot 5, 1406 Camp Avenue, Ocean. RC Realty South LLC, Block 3, Lot 3, 2135 and 2133 Ocean 35 Ocean. No further notice will be needed. Case carried to April 29th, 2021 on Zoom. Again, Mark, this is on the website, correct?
And that agenda, that matter was heard earlier on a Zoom platform, and it continues on a Zoom platform. That's the Hillel School, right?
Yeah.
And on the agenda, the address is on all agendas, which can be taken from our website.
That's Hillel School, Block 34.03, lots 2.21, 2.2, 2.01, 5.01, 5.02, and 6. 1025 Deal Road, Ocean. Once again, that's carried to April 29th special meeting. That brings us to case number 1.
Okay.
Nina and Robert Colt, Block 40.06, Lot 5, 1003 Brookside Avenue, Ocean, Zone R4. This is an application to keep an existing in-ground pool with 3-foot surround constructed in the rear of a yard. Plans show fencing over the rear property line, outdoor shower, and side yard setback, as well as shed placed within the rear yard setback. Mr. Nina or Robert Colt, are you here?
Yes, can you hear us?
I think I can. Amy, please mark the packet. Amy,
Yep.
please mark the packet. Okay. Who is going to testify?
Okay, Amy, would you do me a favor and mute everyone except for the applicant and the chair?
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Colt, who's going to testify?
We both will.
Yeah,
All right, please raise your right hand, both of you. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
yes, we do. I do.
Please each one of you, please state your name and address in accordance with the case.
Nina Colt, 1003 Brookside Avenue, Ocean, New Jersey.
Robert Colt, 1003 Brookside Avenue, Ocean Township.
Okay. Shall we have our professionals go first?
Sure.
I thought we were gonna have the cases moved
Okay, we
first.
can do that. We can do that. Ms. Colt, what are
Yes.
you planning? What are you planning on doing?
What do you mean?
In regards to-
What you have to tell
What
us?
relief? Yeah, what relief are you asking for?
We're,
Well, the shed was discussed in the last variance that we had. in
I can't hear
94.
you. I can't hear you. You have to come closer.
The shed in the rear
I'm sorry, go ahead.
at the last variance hearing in 1994.
Well, basically, you've made an application because you have a swimming pool that doesn't meet the 10-foot rear yard setback. And there's a fence, which is at the rear property line, 3 feet onto the adjacent property, an existing shed that doesn't meet the 5-yard setback, and an existing shower that doesn't meet the side yard setback. So you want relief from that, and tell us
Yes.
why.
I've been there for 30 years, I believe, 1987 or 88. So
It was included in the variance from 1994.
What was included in your variance?
The shed,
this was addressed in 94.
Okay.
when
So
we
do we
built
have a-
our, we did an addition in 1994.
come to
The
the-
shed existed and it was included in that variance.
Did you come to the board for relief?
Yes, we did. In 1994, we did.
Do you have a copy of that resolution?
No, we don't know what happened to it.
Okay, so that's only for the shed.
Yes,
Okay, and how far is the shed off the property line?
It's,
Know
I'll say
that.
a couple feet, it's off the back, I can paint on it, no problem.
I
I
can't,
can't,
just feet.
Mr. Colt, I can't hear you. You have to either speak up or you have to get closer to the microphone.
It's approximately, I have 24 inches to the rear of the shed. And I have at least, I'd say, 3 feet on the left side of the shed.
we have an indication that it's 1/2 foot with 5 feet from the rear property line.
I don't know if that's correct, because our neighbor just had a survey done, and I have to disagree with the survey. You know, you have
The
five
survey
foot-
that you,
You can see
you
where the
sup-
line of the property line was.
I can only tell you supplied a survey to the board that was done in July of 2019, which shows that shed approximately 1/2 foot rear setback.
That's
And-
possible.
And for the
I've
record,
been there for years, and you know, I can't justify exactly the inches, you know, how many, but I'm on our property
okay, but
by
for the,
my feet.
for the record, everyone, the zoning officer did contend that this is not, the shed was not part of the 1994 resolution.
Okay,
Okay?
Okay.
Mary Ann Walensky discovered the shed prior to the hearing, and that was addressed at the hearing.
Okay, well, just to let you know, it's not in the resolution.
So what do we have to do?
so
That's why that's one of the reasons that you're here.
Okay,
Yeah, this
how
is
big
Chip.
is this?
Can you hear me?
I hear.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, the shed is located approximately 1/2 foot from the property line. It's about 3 feet from the fence because the fence is over the property line onto the neighbor's property. That's probably where part of the confusion is. When you look at it, it looks like it's several feet on the property. But in fact, because the fence is off is offset on the other property. It looks like it's a couple feet away from the property line.
Well, it's within.
I don't think it's a big problem. I just think it's something that has to be addressed so that if they come back for another application 10 years from now, it's not a situation where the same thing arises.
Right. How big is the shed?
8 by 10.
Okay. And how long has it been there?
1988.
Okay. How about the other relief that you're asking for?
Well, the pool, I guess because they measured off the fence, they were supposed to measure off the house. That was the pool, the company that did the pool, they obviously didn't measure off the house. So it's a foot towards the other person's property by 12 inches, I believe. So that's the only discrepancy. That's the whole reason why we're here, is because of the pool.
Well, no, the shower.
Well, the shower's just a plastic trellis with basically a garden hose inside. It's anchored down. and
What
the
about the
stones
fence?
around it, so it's, a big deal.
I can't hear him. What about the
Speaking,
fence? What are we doing with the fence?
As far as the fence goes, my neighbor has a pool, so his fence cannot come down, so we just butted up to his fence.
But where is the fence?
Over the property line.
So if the fence is over the property line, it has to be moved.
it's not our fence.
Oh, okay. So you need a fence then for your pool.
The posts that you're seeing on the plot plan,
I can't hear him, sir.
No one can.
You have to,
where's the speaker?
I don't know where the speaker is.
I hear
Henry,
him.
don't they have a letter from the rear property owner explaining the shared back fence or no?
I don't know.
We did send him a letter, but he doesn't reside at the house full time. We don't know where he is. We don't know him. We're not
I didn't
friendly with
know-
him.
By the way, Henry, I didn't mean to jump in before you asked questions of us.
Well, it seems to me, and Mr. Steinberg, please correct me if I'm wrong, the fence should be on their property. You can't use someone else's fence, correct?
It sounds as if they don't have a code compliant fence for their pool. They can't use somebody else's fence. So they didn't build a fence. That's what they're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
So they need to put a fence up.
We wanted to put a fence up. When they came to put the fence up, they said,
Join into it.
there is a fence here, and they joined the
Who's
fence
they?
company.
Well, you
Fence
better call the
company,
fence
then
company
they-
back. I think you got to put one on your property.
So there'll be a double fence back there, which would look unsightly.
I can't hear you, sir.
There would be a double fence that wouldn't look, it would look unsightly to the neighbor.
We have
Does it-
no ability to recognize a fence on somebody else's property.
To have two fences next to each other doesn't look good.
Can I ask you guys, so I've noticed this at other places where there's a perimeter fence around a pool. Is that an option in Ocean or no?
I don't want to put a corral around the pool. That would look terrible.
Well, but then again, then you should have a compliant fence that,
It is compliant.
regardless of the fact that you had a fence there before in the back, now you put a pool in, I don't know what with permits or not, and then it triggers the requirement to have a compliant fence, and the back one might not be that. Is that what I understand, Henry? I'm not
It was
sure.
inspected by the town.
It may have been inspected, but they may not have surveyed it to realize that it wasn't on your property. It's a legal issue. It's not an aesthetic issue. It's a legal issue.
But the fence is on our property, isn't it?
No. The fence is 3 feet off your property. The fence along the back of what looks to be your property is not on your property. And the board
They put it on our-
does not have jurisdiction to approve that fence because it's not on your property.
So what's the regulation height for the fence? Is it 4 feet?
Yes, 4 feet.
So I could put a chain link fence back there at 4 feet and that wouldn't be a problem?
It has to be non-climbable for the pool code.
So what do you consider non-climbable?
You'd have to put those green slats in between the two, in between on a chain link fence in order to have it compliant.
Okay.
Ron, does the smaller mesh qualify as non-climbable or no?
It does. I think
Smaller
under
mesh does.
1A,
Okay, so the small black chain link fence would be,
yeah, I
Acceptable?
believe the answer would be yes.
because
Yeah.
nobody'd be able to fit in between to even climb the fence because it would be a double fence.
Well,
Yeah.
Do you follow what I'm saying?
Got it. You just have to be, if your neighbors were to move and take the fence away that's there, we have to make sure that your pool is protected.
Okay. Well, we'll do what we have to do
Okay, no
as far as that
problem.
goes.
I'd like to make a suggestion, just so, I understand you want to put up a fence and you have to, but, you may want to draw the fence in a little, and I'll tell you why. I live next to a neighbor that has a fence and I have a fence, and you want to be able to get in between there to clean up when things start growing there. Because if you can't, it's gonna look
I
mighty
really
messy.
can't. I have skip laurels that are about 12 feet high that I really don't want to move.
Yeah.
So to bring it inboard, I'd have to,
Oh, okay, so you have skip laurels on that side, okay.
Yeah, we have-
It's
it's
a
a-
total blind.
It's
in
a
the back.
fence to the neighbors, actually,
Right.
Okay,
so they can't see in.
so then what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to put a fence on your property that's pool compliant. And there are different fences that you can put besides a chain link fence, but it has to be pool compliant and on your property.
Okay, well, I'll check with you first before I install it, to make sure it's correct.
Well, I'm gonna defer to Mr. Higgins first, who is our planner, and he may have a couple of words on that.
Sure.
Yeah, on what, on the fence?
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah, my suggestion would be that they put a fence and that they actually put a short section of the fence from the east side of their lot, connect it to the shed and make the shed actually part of the fence, and then pick it up on the other side of the shed and continue that fence along to the other side of the lot. I've actually done that on my property and it works out very nicely.
Well, if I have a little space to get back there to like do repairs to the shed, I prefer to.
Well, the problem is your shed's 6 inches off the property line. So you're not going to have any space to do repairs to the shed if the fence is on the property line, unless you move the shed.
I'll
You're not
consider
going to be
that.
able to do much in 6 inches.
No,
The fence is already up on the
I'm
left
saying
side.
put a post on either side and just use the shed.
Oh,
Yeah, I guess I could do that either way, I'll have to look at it.
And then
See what
the only other, well, the pool setback is a variance. I don't have a big problem with that. There's still plenty of room. Aesthetically, I don't think it makes any difference. It was a mistake that was made in construction. I can't see.
My
forcing
neighbor's
people-
pool is actually much closer to the fence than mine is, If you look at the survey from the other yard, or the satellite picture, you'll see that his pool is much closer
Yeah,
than
well,
mine.
that might very well be. That might very well be. But I mean, your pool, I don't have a big problem with the location of the pool. It was a
Okay,
mistake
thank
that was made.
Mhm.
Moving a pool doesn't seem to be reasonable. And the only other variance issue is the shower, which is on the side property line, again, about a half foot off the property. basically, I think it's a portable structure from the detail that you showed.
It
The
is.
ordinance would require it to be 10 feet in. Again, it's such a small structure. As long as your neighbors aren't objecting, I don't have a real problem with it being there. It's
No,
not
not at all.
like it's a major structure.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Higgins, Mr. Fitzgerald, do you have anything on this?
Mr. Chairman, I really don't have anything toward the application itself. I have, my position is that these types of mistakes should not happen in today's world. The point of having professional plans drawn up to get permits is so that the constructions are in accordance with the permits and the code. My recommendation is not affecting these applicants. I defer to Jim. But is that the board possibly pen a letter to the council that the ordinance require that constructions like this, after they're approved by and construction permits issued, have a certified surveyor stake it, a licensed surveyor certify a stakeout and have the township engineer inspect that the stakeout actually is in place and certified prior to digging these, because we've had a number of these lately. I'm not saying anyone's doing anything wrong intentionally, but there's no reason for it.
So noted. I think we'll take that up with Mr. Steinberg and Mr. Kirk. Thank you very much. Okay, anyone from the board have any questions? No questions from the board. Mr. Fuller, do you have any questions?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. I could hear you, now I can't.
You're muted again, John. Your mic's muted.
While he's doing that, Henry, I have one kind of comment question for Phil. So Phil, are you telling me that on an already built situation where they didn't get permits, they don't have to file with certified, plans from a certified architect or engineer? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know the particulars, to be honest, okay, Mr. Van Wagner. I kind of thought that they had permits and constructed it in the wrong place.
Okay. And I mean, I'm not saying on this application, I'm talking more generally before. I'm saying I agree with you that you should have the benefit of that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
If they didn't get permits, then, I'm not inclined to be sympathetic, I suppose, if you will, because you're supposed to get permits for a pool and all the associated work that goes with it. If they did get permits,
with you, I'm saying, but and then in addition, we might need. So now, finish that thought. Like so, and you want some certified plans from either an architect, builder, or engineer?
well, a pool plan, as I understand it, has to be pretty accurate to get its permit. It has to be based on a survey, has to be drawn with setbacks, it's reviewed by the zoning officer, it's reviewed by the construction department. So it has to meet certain requirements of the code and of the zoning ordinance in order to get a permit. Once you have a permit, now it goes to construction. Well, the permit's based on what's supposedly an accurate plan. So there's no, in today's world, and the town is largely developed, and we're not in the middle of the woods somewhere and nowhere where it's hard to get a survey control. Having said that, it's not a big deal to stake out a pool and have the stakeout observed.
What I'm asking you, Billy, is I'm
to make sure it's
asking.
in place before the pool is dug.
Yeah, so I'm asking you this: is your question that if I was going to put a pool in my backyard and I had to go pull my pool permit, which is old submission to the town, why shouldn't I have to do that if I didn't do it with permits? And after the fact, now I got to go get a variance because something triggers it. Why shouldn't I have to go through that same process in a way?
No.
Okay.
Rich, hold it, guys, hold it.
Or at
hold it,
least
guys.
file for it. I mean,
Hold it, Rich, here's the deal. What Bill is saying is that in the real world, you don't have a surveyor who's on the machine, okay, who's digging this hole for the pool. So he could be too close. If it were staked out, we have a better opportunity for after someone had certified it, for someone to go out there and say, hey, look, this is where the pool goes. I mean, I apologize, but the pool guys are simply not surveyors. So
Yeah, know what? I get it now.
I
Gotcha.
think,
I was thinking more of the,
Gentlemen, I think we have to go through this at another time,
Yeah.
okay?
Sorry.
This is not part of this application. Okay, here we are, with a fence that, Mr. and Mrs. Coulter are going to put up. The shower is a portable shower which can be moved. It's not a permanent structure. And we're talking about the connecting the fence to the back of the shed, which Mr. Colt said that would be okay. Is that okay?
It would be okay, sure.
Okay, so what we're voting on here is relief for the fence, correct, Mr. Steinberg?
Yeah, the application needs approval for the location of the existing shed, about a half a foot off the rear property line. It needs approval for the pool, which is also, I believe, a half a foot from the.
So the pool is 9 feet.
The pool is what?
The pool
The
surround.
pool's 9 feet from the property line.
Okay,
Right, it should be 10, right?
Yes.
Right.
okay.
And
So
what about
that's-
the surround?
There's a small waterfall feature that's about 8 feet from the rear property line.
Okay.
Because
And what else?
we feel it was measured from the fence, okay? The shower, which is portable, is also a half a foot from the side property line. And as a condition of all those approvals, I think the board's going to require that they have their own pool compliant fence along the rear property line.
Pool
Is that
what?
correct? A pool compliant fence.
Pool
Now, I
compliant
believe
fence,
that
correct.
it only has to be 4 feet, not 5 feet, and it cannot be climbable. So
Okay.
the ordinance specifies what's required. Correct, Jim?
Is it 4 feet or 5 feet?
4
I
feet.
believe only 4 feet, but it has to be non-climbable. So I'm saying as part of if you're going to grant the relief requested, one of the conditions is that he construct a pool compliant fence along his rear property line. Because there is none there. It's on somebody else's property.
I also need the board to rule with regard to the shed. We have no approval.
No, that was the first thing I said, that the
Okay.
shed is at one half foot from the rear and 3 feet from the side. If the board wants to keep it there. And it sounds like it's been there since 1994, so 25 years.
Okay. So, any other questions from the board? Questions from the board?
Hello, can you hear me?
Who is this?
Chairman, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Chairman, can you hear me? I'm Fuller.
Yes? Who is this? Okay.
Chairman, are you able to hear me?
Who is this?
I think
Mr.
it's John
Fuller.
Fuller trying to get in,
Trying to
Henry.
talk to you.
Yeah, it's not working.
John, can you
Can you
dial
hear me?
in?
John,
It didn't work that way either.
do you have the number in front of you, John?
John, sometimes if you, where is he? He's out.
Okay, Mr. Fuller's gonna call in, it looks like, okay? Can
Okay.
we keep on moving?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep moving here. Are there any questions from the public? Okay, need a motion to close the public hearing.
I think
Make
Mr.
motion
Fuller,
to close the public
Say
hearing.
doesn't Mr. Fuller want to say something?
I don't know. I don't know where he is.
Hey, Chairman, John Fuller here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
For some reason, when I had the browser open, you couldn't hear me on the phone either. Sorry about that.
Okay.
This has been wild. So I apologize. A couple of questions regarding the fence in the back. the way your yard, sir, is configured now, can your backdoor neighbors get to that part of your what has been used as your yard?
No,
So,
they're tied into
across,
each other.
okay, so they're tied into each other. So
They're tied
across
into each other.
Ocean Township, right, across Ocean Township, across the state, people move into houses, their neighbors have fences, people put pools in, and they use part of their neighbors' fences, right? And then add their own fences to be compliant and make sure people can't get into their pool. And are we really saying that all those instances are illegal and we need to go and look for those folks that have just tied into their neighbors' yards? Are we really going to have these folks build a new fence so that there's going to be 3 feet by 75 feet or whatever the case may be of just non-usable space?
I can't answer that, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Steinberg can.
We have no control over the neighbor's fence. So technically, he does not, the cults do not have a pool fence.
Right. Could we, instead of making them put up a brand new fence, could we do a condition on this, if we approve a variance here, could we do a condition that if the fence goes away, they have to build a new compliant fence within a certain number of days?
And during those certain number of days, the pool will be open.
Our neighbors have a pool as well. So
I'm
if
not
they take,
interested in I'm not interested in your neighbors. If the neighbor doesn't use his pool and he covers it, he takes the fence down, we then have this pool without a security fence.
and you have 2 pools without a security fence.
There is no. Although there's no easy answer, I agree that most of the houses that have pools have a fence on each property. And we can't condone having your neighbors having a fence, and hopefully they won't take it down.
And I see you sent them a certified letter asking permission and there's no response.
That's correct.
So, I mean, if you had an agreement in writing with your neighbor or something, possibly consider
Well,
it.
that's what we were trying to get, because that was another option that we heard that was.
You would actually need an easement.
The problem is the neighbor doesn't live there in the wintertime, so we haven't seen him.
I understand.
So,
But you need an easement to use that land.
Huh?
This isn't even easement.
Not your land to use, that 3 feet.
Okay, so I guess we'll settle on the fence because we can't get in touch with them, so we'll put up the fence.
Well,
I understand, John, it may be an existing problem, but when it comes to light,
we have to do what we have to do to make this, to rectify it.
Well, it's easy if you, and I understand Mr. Steinberg and what's going on. If you want to try and contact your neighbor and not open your pool until you get your neighbor and get an easement, you can always come back.
For another hearing?
No.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chepika, we've gone through all of these options. That's why we are here now. Okay. We don't have a letter. To get an easement would be, sometime in 2-3 months. I'm just asking we keep on moving through these.
Okay.
So if you want to grant the variances, I think the condition is that he's got to put a compliant fence along his rear property line and let it go with that.
Okay.
That'll settle it.
Any other questions from the board? Any other questions from the public? Motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing, Worrell.
Walter second. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Action on this case?
I'll move for a positive.
And that
And
is,
also,
okay, so that is for a fence. Where are you, Mr. Steinberg?
Well, he's not getting a variance for a fence. He's got a, that's the condition of the other eight. He can keep the pool where it is with the 8-foot setback to the waterfall. He can keep the shed with the 1 foot, half a foot rear yard, 3-foot side yard. He can keep the temporary shower with the 1 foot side yard. As a condition of all those approvals, he's got to put in a pool compliant fence along his rear property line.
Okay. Okay. Amy, please call the roll.
I don't know if you had a
Sorry, who
second.
seconded?
There was no
Worrell.
second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Thank you very much. Next case is case number 2. Abraham Mizrahi, block 25.31, lot 3, 423 Redmond Avenue, Oakhurst, New Jersey. Zone R4. This is an application to install a 6-foot fence within the front yard setback of Elmwood Road. Mr. Mizrahi, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Are you going to testify?
I will.
Please raise your right hand. You affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name and address according to the case.
Sure. Abraham Mizrahi, 423 Redmond Avenue, Oakhurst, New Jersey, 07755.
Okay. Mr. Mizrahi, please tell us what you're doing.
All right. Thank you all for your time this evening. What I'm looking to do here is install a 6-foot vinyl fence, which would basically be for security and privacy of my two young children and my family. And I went over Mr. Higgins and Mr. Fitzgerald's recommendations. And in an effort of time, I actually went ahead and removed the chain link fence that was in the right of way. So if I may, I would love to share some photos of the before and after if the board feels necessary. I also went ahead and took some photographs and some dimensions of the gate that we are looking to install.
Amy, can you please mark the packet?
Yes.
Do we have to mark these pictures one by one?
They're
Mark?
part of the packet. No, they're part of the packet.
Okay. All right, Mr. Mizrahi, please
Yes.
continue.
So if I'm able to share my screen, I would just like to show some before and after photographs, including the fence that we're looking. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. I know the members of the board already have this information, but again, this is just to go over the property survey with what we're looking to do. I took a few photos, just basically showing the before, where the pool was, where the 3-foot fence was at the time before removing it out of the right of way. This red line will indicate where we are looking to place our 6-foot fence. Here is the second part of the backyard where there is no, I should say there is full access to walk on. Here's the second part of where we're looking to put the fence as well. And then the last and final place would be along closer to Elmwood on the corner here, just to secure the property from any intruders, animals, so on and so forth. And that's just another photo. These are my kids. We could skip over this one. Okay. So that's the before, and then the after is here. We went ahead, and I should state that there was a hole in the ground for the pool. There is no longer an above ground pool. We had an incident where it was actually destroyed in the snowstorm we had a couple of months back. So we went ahead and sodded the whole area, and in that process, we went ahead and we got rid of the 3-foot chain link fence that was in the right of way. It was 6 feet away from the curb when in fact zoning officer Maloney had indicated that it needed to be 10, so we went ahead and removed that. Here's just some other views of the property. Okay, and then as far as the fence goes, I happen to agree with both Mr. Higgins and Fitzgerald that I did some due diligence. I drove around the area, and I actually agree that it would look much more aesthetically pleasing if we went ahead and did something where we added lattice or had a picket upper of the fence as opposed to a solid white fence. So I'm actually revising my request to have a 6-foot fence, but the last 12 inches of that being some sort of design to be more aesthetically pleasing, for the township and for the property. And here's just another example. I would be more than okay with something of this nature. Thank you, guys. All right, I'm done sharing my screen here.
Mr. Higgins, your report, please.
Yeah, sure. You want me to read it, or?
You can summarize if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I'll read it. Okay, it's the applicant's requesting to construct a 6-foot-high white vinyl fence along approximately 67 feet of the 125-foot front property line on the corner lot. The subject site is 66.79 feet wide, 125 feet deep, 8,334 square foot corner lot. It is occupied by a single-family residence and a swing set. The survey and pictures submitted indicate that there's a above-ground pool. I'll skip over that. The applicant is removing the pool, and he's removed the 3-foot-high chain link fence. The site's undersized for the zone, 90 feet wide, and 10,000 square feet are required. The following variances are necessary: accessory structures, setback. The ordinance requires that accessory structures other than buildings must maintain the required front yard setback, which in this case is 30 feet. The swing set is located entirely within the front yard, and a portion of the pool, forget about the pool, okay, but the swing set is located within the front yard, so that requires a variance unless it's relocated. The maximum fence height within the required front yard, and the maximum solid height of the solid fence within a required front yard. The ordinance permits a maximum fence height of 4 feet in the front yard and a maximum solid fence height of 3 feet in the front yard. Plan proposes a solid white vinyl fence for approximately 67 feet along the front property line along the Elmwood Road frontage of the site. Hold on one second. And now maybe I can talk. The width of the site is approximately 23 feet less than required by the ordinance. There's some argument that there can be there's a hardship. However, the fact that there's a hardship doesn't really in itself justify the installing a 6-foot fence on the property line. I looked at the area. I didn't see any other similar fences that were on the front property line. The board in the past has granted relief on corner lots for one side of a corner lot to allow the fence to be set back 15 feet with screening in front of the fence. It's my opinion that a 5-foot fence would be more appropriate at 15 feet, but 6 foot with the lattice or the aesthetic improvement on the top last foot of the fence will also be acceptable. My applicant might also want to require a more muted color, but I do notice too that the existing fence on the rest of the property is white. So it's probably better that it be white to be consistent. I have no problem with the swing set being located in the front yard as long as it's located behind the fence. And again, comments with the pool are no longer appropriate. So basically the board normally would allow a variance but having that fence set back 15 feet on at least one side.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a report dated last month. It's part of the packet. I basically totally agree with what Jim is saying. I just want to be clear that when Jim is saying setback 15 feet, that's from the property line. The
That's
current
correct.
dimension on Mr. Mizrahi's plan is 10 feet from the curb line. That is the property line where he's got it now. So approximately 25 feet from the curb line, just so everyone is clear what Mr. Higgins is saying, which and I agree with. This is a large enough backyard that my position is no more variance. I mean, that's adequate variance to allow a reasonable sized yard for a family to recreate outside, be protected, have security, have their pool or whatever else other amenities they want in their rear yard.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Mr. Mizrahi.
Yes.
Heard our professionals. What are we thinking about on this fence? They're asking you to move it back a bit.
So my initial thoughts are as follows. When I first moved into the township back in October, the first thing I did, as a matter of fact, was apply for this fence because safety for my children was obviously first priority. I was told by zoning officer Maloney at the time that the requirement was actually 10 feet, which is initially where I got that figure from. With all transparency, I'm more than okay, with their suggestions in terms of the 6-foot fence having a more aesthetically pleasing look, meaning doing lattice or a picket upper. I will be, again, being honest here, I do think, that 25 feet is a bit excessive. It's not as large as they may portray it to be. Again, I don't know what future plans are for the backyard. If it helps, and I would hope you guys are okay with this. I would ask that we stay with that 10-foot figure where Officer Maloney said, and I would be willing to go ahead and actually add some evergreen as per Mr. Fitzgerald's suggestions, again, to just add to the beauty of the block. I would be more than open to doing that if that's okay with you guys.
Okay, the problem there is, first of all, you're proposing putting the fence on the property line. If it's on the property line, you cannot install vegetation within the street right of way on township property. It's not your
Understood.
problem to do that. That's why the board has always, and it's been unwavering over the years, where they've required it to be set back 15 feet from the property line, not the street, not the paving in the street, from the property line. And then to allow screening in front of it to soften the visual impact of the fence. And again, there's nothing in the neighborhood that's even close to what you're proposing. So what you're doing is going to be substantially different and have a major visual impact.
I understand, Mr. Higgins. Thank you for that. Another thing I will point out is I actually did measure the distance from the corner to where the very first piece of the fence would be installed. It's actually about it's about 57 feet, which I in my opinion is far enough where there wouldn't be any visual impairment as far as driving goes or anything of that nature. And that's just my theory on it. I would love for the board, to let me know what we could do here. I do think that 25 feet, or rather the 15 feet from the property line, is a bit excessive.
Hey, Henry, I know I'm jumping ahead, but it was a segue there. Can I make one comment?
Sure.
So, I mean, we just had an application beforehand where it's an as-built and we have to work back into it. And here, I think this applicant, and I think he's really presented a great case. I mean, the way he presented it to us with his visuals and everything else. And if we don't have huge safety concerns, if we have some aesthetic concerns for the neighborhood, for sure. But I'd like to see some compromise in there. But I understand, to Jim's point, like that, we can't go against the precedent of the entire neighborhood, right? So to get that close to the property line, but if there's a way to like make that work, even if it's jogging the fence at some point, and maybe that's something that he can work out with Jim and Bill. That's my thought is all. I mean, I think that the applicant asked for, board thoughts, and I jumped ahead, so sorry, Henry.
It's okay. So Mr. Malta.
So I guess just in response to what Rich just said, is, you get yourself backed into an untenable situation, because what's happened here, I mean, as long as I've been on the board, the setback is 30 feet. We've compromised, that is a compromise. 15 feet is half of what's normally required. And we've always done 15 feet. Now if it's going to be, well, we're starting off with, we're giving them 15 feet, they want more. We have Rich's proposed compromise from there. So then we're at what, 7.5? Pretty right on the property line. I think 15 feet is more than reasonable. And I don't see this application as being any different from any other corner lot application that we've had. I mean, I live on a corner lot. My fence is set back 30 feet, and I'd have to get a variance, and if I wanted to make it any further, and I'm not going to get one that's closer than 15 feet to the property line. I wouldn't even apply for anything like that.
Thank you, Mr. Malta. Anyone else from the board?
Well, I just wanted to say this, if I might. I almost entirely agree with Jim. I've been involved with the fence variances for a while. There have been a couple times where the board has varied from 15 feet. 15 feet, I would say, has been the board's compromise in cases that require it, probably 95% of the time. There have been a few. I just want to point out that even with the 15-foot setback, this backyard is 44 feet by 66 feet or so of usable area. I mean, it's not a small area. Okay, so it could be a lot less than that if he had to comply with the ordinance. So the 15 feet in this case is not cutting off a terribly large percentage. It's about 25% of the usable backyard area. Yeah, we've had other cases, I can't remember in this neighborhood. I know a couple up behind Carroll Avenue and Dow Avenue where the board has compromised a little closer because they were really unusual situations or exceptionally narrow lots. But for the most part, my personal opinion is 15 feet on this particular backyard is a good compromise. It's better than 30, which is the requirement.
Thank you,
Hey, Bill, it's John Fuller.
Yes,
Hey,
Mr.
Bill.
Fuller.
Yes.
Hey, Bill, do you happen to have the pictures up for that were submitted here?
I have the ones in the board packet, John. They're all.
Yeah. Could you look at
with-
exhibit number 2?
Okay, hang on. I'm going through this. I hate this having my Adobe stinks anymore. I have to scroll everything.
Same here. So while you're finding it, obviously I
Sure, I got it.
I fight for property owners on where fences go, obviously, as we saw already
I know
tonight.
you
And
do.
it's
You
just
and I
something
will
I
fight.
always do. And yeah, so yeah, Bill and I always go back and forth.
It's okay.
But so this is a great picture though, of what you could see the neighbor's house,
The picture
right?
that
And then what they would have. Yeah, I'm looking. Exhibit number 2, the pool's on the right side. There's like the bird bath or the water feature there, and you can see the neighbor's house over there.
Yeah.
So if we were to talk about 15 feet, do you have any sense of reference on where that fence would end up being on that picture?
Right
Because
about
usually, I'm fighting for the homeowner,
Right
but I'm
about
looking at it like
right about the left tip of the triangle, John.
the
Hang
left
on.
of the triangle.
Yeah, you see, see the little planter and the bird bath?
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I'm sorry. It's a diamond or a square.
Yeah. I see. I got
The
you.
limit,
I knew what you
as
meant.
you look at it, would be about 15 feet. But keep in mind, somehow somebody chose the location of the pool, and I don't believe that is in the optimal position, for the backyard.
The pool's not a non-factor anymore anyway. The pool's not there.
So in this case, you're
What's
recommending the
important
fence kind of go where that tip of the diamond is on the left there.
Yeah.
And usually I would argue for more, but looking at this picture, I couldn't argue for anything, shorter than that. Just having, picturing somebody in that house next door looking out, and then that, looking at a solid white fence there is pretty tough. And you know me, I'm usually not making this argument.
Yeah.
No,
And when
I
you look at
understand.
the neighbor's house, the neighbor has the 6-foot high fence set back to 30 feet.
Sure, yeah, because they're not a corner lot, right? So this is the the weird situation that folks find themselves in.
I agree with Mr.
All right. Thanks.
Any other questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, it's Worrell. I think Mr. Maltus summed it up perfectly, the way he laid it out, and I have to agree with him.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public here to be heard? Okay.
I think I am, right?
Excuse me?
I think I am.
And what is your name?
Phyllis Geis.
Okay. Please raise your right hand.
I think she's last on the agenda. You're here for your hearing, are you not, Phyllis?
Yep. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant. I'm
sorry.
sorry.
I'm on the agenda as well.
Okay. No, I'm taking questions from the board about this case number 2. Okay, Mr. Mizrachi.
Yes.
You heard the testimony. You heard our professionals. You heard our board members. Would you be willing to move the fence back to that corner where Mr. Fitzgerald is talking about?
So I want to clarify just so I know where we stand. The 10-foot setback from the curb that was described by a zoning officer, is that incorrect information? That's my first question.
It is not incorrect. No, it is not incorrect. No one told you curb. It's from property line.
Okay.
I think what the,
Wait, everyone, wait, Jim, hold it. It's in her report that's in everyone's packets.
Okay. All right. My second question is, because I acquired the property as such, and there was a fence that was pre-existing in the right of way at 6 feet. Again, this is just to my knowledge now. Had I known, the setback was such, I would have went about it a little bit differently. But to answer the question, and I just want to make one more, I guess, compromise, if you may. If the board and Mr. Higgins and Mr. Fitzgerald are okay with this and see this to be fit, how about if we went ahead and did the following? In Exhibit 2, where Mr. Fuller pointed out that picture, if we were okay doing a 4-foot fence there where you see the neighbor's house, so I would do the 4-foot fence there to go even less than 6 or 5 for that matter. Secondly, if we could go ahead and then for the main area that's open to the street, if we could go ahead and do that in a 5-foot fence with lattice. So now we're going a foot under, and also screening that with plants and trees. I'd be asking the board if you guys would be open to potentially allowing us to put it a little bit closer to the street with the 5 feet, with the lattice, and then also screening it. So again, making it as beautifully aesthetic as possible.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Higgins first.
Yeah, and I'm totally confused. I don't quite understand what Mizrachi is saying.
Okay, if I may, can I share my screen once more?
Henry.
Yes?
He wanted to know if he can share his screen.
Sure.
Amy's doing it presently.
Amy has to do it.
Doing it presently.
I thought he was asking you.
No. No, Amy has to do that.
I'm working on it. Hang on 1 second.
But while we're doing that, so this is what I was kind of thinking about before, whether there's a way to jog it in and all, but it doesn't sound like there really is. I mean, before we even share the screen, am I right, Jim and Bill? I mean, it's pretty straight.
I mean, if this was a small backyard that was really small, I realize it's not acreage. You know, I could be persuaded to look at something. This is not that small a backyard. And the compromise that we're talking about does not, by the time you put landscaping to break up the outside of the fence, that's approximately 5 feet off the, 10 feet off the property line, because the fence landscape combination is going to approach 5 feet. I mean, it may not be quite that wide, but it's certainly going to be 4. And I
So
think
we can't rationalize that with the rest of the neighborhood.
Right.
Is that, I'm asking you, I guess.
Well, that's my position on this one. I think Jim agreed with me.
I think I'm hearing that too.
And I actually think trying to redesign something at a board hearing is not a very good idea anyway.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that one bit.
Mr. Mizrahi, do you want to carry this until next month and come back and with something else?
I would. I was actually postponed from last month's hearing to this one. It will really just take 3 minutes of your time if you guys are willing to grant me that time.
Okay, Mr. Mizrahi.
Mr. Mizrahi,
You can do use your screen.
You have.
You have the rights now.
Oh, I do?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how to do it. Oh, okay, I got it. Okay. All right. This will just take a minute. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So to sum it all up, what I'm asking for here is for this area here, because this is basically the bulk of the yardage, I would ask here to revise this down from 6 feet to a 5-foot fence with lattice and screening should you feel the need for it. That's here. And then for here, so for this area, I would be more than open to a 4-footer here. And then last but certainly not least, I would be okay again with a 4-foot here. So it would be 4, 5, and 4.
I don't think anybody cares about the other pieces except the fence that's parallel to the curb line. And we're suggesting really strongly that you accept the 15 to 25 feet from the curb line or 10 or 15 feet from the property line instead of possibly a denial and having to do it 30 feet from the property line, which is 40 feet from the curb line. And
understood.
That's my feeling.
Okay.
My feeling also.
And Worrell.
Okay.
Yes.
Should we
So, Mr. Mizrahi, where are we here?
Okay, I guess, yes, I am willing to go ahead and accept the 15-foot setback.
Okay.
That is from the property line, you understand, not from the curb.
I'm just struggling with where that property line is, to be completely honest with you guys.
it's
Jeff,
like
10 feet from the curb, right?
The
I'm sorry?
property line is 10 feet from the pavement.
The property line is 10 feet from the pavement. I understand.
10 feet in from the pavement.
So with that being said, I guess my final ask here is if we could do a 10-foot setback as opposed to 15, because again, it may not seem this way, but it really does cut into a large amount. To everyone's point, it is 25% of the backyard. So my ask is if we could please compromise at a 10-foot from the property line.
Okay, Mr. Mizrahi, it is a 30-foot setback. So the board is considering a half of the required setback.
Understood. I will accept.
Okay, so any other questions from the board? Any other questions from the public? Amy, please close the public hearing.
Okay.
Somebody got to move it.
Make a motion.
I'll make the motion. Public hearing, Malta.
You have it, Amy, the first and second?
Yes.
Okay, go.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Action. Someone please offer.
I offer for a positive resolution according to the requirements set forth in our discussion regarding side yard setback of 15 feet
Okay.
minimum on the side yard.
It's front yard.
I'm sorry, front yard.
It's a street, so it's a front yard. It's 15 feet from the property line and approximately 25 feet from the curb line. All right, and there's also a requirement that it be a 6-foot fence with the top 1 foot to be a decorative open. And lastly, there's a proposal here, and I think in Bill's letter, of some plantings. So he's going to have to submit it, I guess, an informal landscaping plan to whom? Jim or to Bill?
Jim Higgins.
Who said that?
Jim Higgins.
To Jim. Okay.
I'll
Okay, Jim?
second Mr. Worrell.
Okay. Amy, please call the roll.
Just have one more question. So
Okay.
if we approve it, he has to put the plantings in within 30 days of the fence being completed?
Yes.
That's fine.
Yes.
And may I ask one more question? I'm sorry.
Well, can we vote please first and then move forward from there?
Well, my question would actually be in regards to it's before. I would like to ask before the vote. I apologize for the late response.
And what's your question, Mr. Mizrahi?
Valid question in regards to the final vote, I guess.
That's already started.
I don't know. Are we voting? There was a
Can we let
motion.
him ask a question?
If you may.
What's your question?
My question is, if I were to go ahead and instead do the fence, if I were to do all trees for that matter, would that suffice? Is that okay?
You'll have to take that up with the planner after the resolution is approved. You have to present an informal planting plan that they have to approve. There's a suggestion that we can go by, and if the planner would accept something different, that would be okay too. Are you talking about a solid wall of trees?
Correct.
That's a fence.
That's a fence.
Same thing. You need the same relief, and you can't keep it any higher than 6 feet.
Understood.
That's what you're talking about. Whether it's a vinyl fence or a tree fence, it's all the same.
That's subject to what Mr. Worrell's motion already was, right?
Yeah, same motion, same place. All right, can we move? I think it's first and second. Can we go for a vote, Amy?
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mizrahi.
Thank you all.
Next case is case number 3. Klein Cronum, block 72, lot 1, 486, Shafter Street, Ocean, R5. This is an application to construct a one-story rear addition with a covered rear porch, paver patio, Bilco doors, an AC condenser, a detached storage building, driveway, trash enclosure, and fence. The dwelling is pre-existing, non-conforming in that it doesn't meet the front yard setbacks. Attorney for the applicant, Mr. Richard Tilton, Esquire. Mr. Tilton, are you here?
Yes, I am. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay.
Will, is Patty Cronum here?
Yes, Ms.
Yes, I am.
Cronenheim.
Who is going to testify tonight?
I also have our architect, Mark Nemergut. He should be on the line.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr.
Who's going
Nemergut
to,
and Ms. Cronenheim.
who's going to testify first?
Mr. Nemergut, but if I could have Ms. Cronenheim sworn now, because invariably it blends in. The testimony ends up blending in, as you all know.
Yes,
So,
Ms. Cronenheim, please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
And your architect's name? I'm sorry.
Mark Nemergut. The guy with the tie.
Mr. Nemergut, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Have you ever testified before this board before?
Yes, I have some time ago, a couple years ago.
Could you please review your credentials for us?
Henry?
I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I've been licensed since 2008. I operate a firm with my wife by the name of N2 Architecture. I've testified before this board as well as numerous other boards along the coast.
You're licensed in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Mr. Steinberg?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
No comment, sorry.
Okay. Mr. Tilton?
thank you. Mr. Nemergut, if you would, if we could just briefly go through your plans that were revised through February 11th, 2021. And I'm sorry, February 11th, 2021.
Yes.
Just go through the plans, give the board just a quick information as to what's proposed, and then from there we can talk about the variance relief that's sought. You can start with an overview first. That would be great.
Okay, so let me just walk through the site briefly. As you guys know, it's in an R5 zone, 10,000 square foot lot, 7,500 square foot is required. Buildable lot area is 7,500 square foot. The lot width is 100 and 75 is required. The lot consists of an existing house, 3 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. It was built around 1911, so it's a fairly older home. Has a first floor of around 1,600 square feet and a large front porch that's about 412 square feet. It does have a second floor nestled under the roof of around 1,000 square foot. Point to note that does not have a basement. It's got a crawl space and it has really no usable attic. The house as it sits now, as you know, has 3 front yard setbacks. On Beechwood, it's around 25.5 feet. Staff is around 15.5, and Laurel's around 23.5, as it is right now. The side yard's not applicable. The rear yard is around 46.7 feet from the rear yard to the existing structure. Our building coverage is around 27.6 currently, and our impervious is at 33.8. So the house, effectively, what we wanted to do was modernize the structure. As I mentioned, it's a fairly old home. The plan is kind of broken up a bit in different rooms. And my client wanted to basically modernize the kitchen, the living area, and of course, modify a master suite and add a rear porch. All things that we typically do to these houses these days. At the same time, the addition, we didn't want to go up with the addition onto the second floor because, as you can see, the house has a certain character to it that we wanted to keep. Being a hip roof with a fairly modest second floor, My client really wanted to utilize the first floor, so as they got older, they wouldn't have any issues of going upstairs. They wouldn't really need to. So the logical conclusion was to develop to the rear of the house, leaving the front yard along Staffa intact, and much of the side yards along the adjoining streets. So basically, placing an addition on the back of the house. At some point in time, there was a couple additions added over the years. We're going to be removing those because they don't really do any justice to the structure. And we wanted to replace it with an addition that we felt kind of looked like it was always been there. So that's kind of how we started the project. And then the proposed, as you can see with the floor plans, is just that. We're just modifying, or I should say adding on a modest addition on the back of the structure. If I can refer you to sheet A 1.0. If you guys would like, I could share my screen. It's up to you. If you guys have the drawings in front of you, that's fine.
I don't have the drawings. I'd like to see them.
Okay, if I could ask the secretary to allow me to share her screen.
Sure.
This is what we need. Yard setbacks.
Let's see if this will work. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. So these are all excerpts from the drawings that were submitted as part of the package. This is the site plan showing the house with the addition in the darker hatch on the back. I'm going to just advance from this slide and go to the floor plan just so you guys get a better understanding of what we did. So this is sheet A1. So a frame of reference here, the shaded area. Oh, let me put my drawing tool on here. All right, so this shaded area here is the addition off the back of the house, which represents an expansion of the master suite, and then an expansion of the kitchen area and a small mudroom area. And also an addition of a covered porch, which is much needed in just about any house these days to give some shielding from the sun. Now, if I could just scroll over to the second floor plan, which is on the same sheet, you'll see that much of the second floor, my drawing tool up, much of the second floor is intact, front of the house, and we're doing a small addition just to get the roof to work and create a little bit of an area for a study or a little home office area or home space for somebody to work. All right, now I'm just going to go to the elevations briefly. This is again on the same package. This is the Staffa Street elevation that's existing and will remain as such as a part of this. And then scrolling down to the Laurel Ave side, to the north approximately, this is the addition. Just get my tool here. This is the addition area here that we're adding that's shaded, that's hatched. Again, keeping under the existing ridge line of the main house and just an extension off the back. And then this is the rear elevation. Let me just scroll over if I can. So this is the rear elevation of the structure as proposed. So you can see the main roof in the background, and the shaded areas for all this is what we're adding. So just as a frame of reference. We kept the ridge line underneath, so again, cannot be seen from the road, at least from Staffa. We're keeping the existing chimney and a nice little addition that sort of has some scale to it and is broken up a bit so that it's not a box. You know, that was one of the key things here with this project, that we didn't want to do a second floor. We didn't think it would be appropriate, and it would definitely change the complete look of the house as well as, you know, the feel of the road. I mean, this is the center point of that neighborhood, this structure, being the fact that it's got 3 front yards, and we wanted to keep the scale as it is. If I could just touch briefly upon the net result here with some of the numbers. The first floor, 1655 is existing. We have the front porch at 412 square feet. And then our addition on the first floor as a frame of reference is about 377 square feet. And then the porch itself is another 251 square feet. So what this means to the setbacks, let me go back to me go back to this sheet here. Everybody can see that. This is the existing line on Beechwood, and this is the existing line of the house on Laurel. All we're doing is extending out, matching the existing non-conforming setback on both sides, and just effectively extruding the house, if you will, but basically we're not making the setback any worse than it is on either side of that. And then our rear yard setback is a non-issue. It's compliant with the ordinance.
You want to talk about, there's a few accessory structures on the Laurel Avenue side. If you could just point those out. I think it's the AC compressor and the Bilco door.
Oh, yes. Yes, of course. So we obviously have to store items and place items that are a necessity to everybody's home. And in this case, air conditioning is one of them. And we do have a crawl space that we need to access. As a part of this addition, we're eliminating the access in the back. So we're going to install a Bilco style door on the side. And we felt that that was the most effective place to put them. And we have some screening, and they're located. The air conditioning units are over 15 foot to the unit, and then it looks like the Bilco. I have the Bilco number for you. Bilco is approximately 17 and a half. So these are well off of the road, and there's a fence and everything as well blocking them.
And now at the rear of the property, towards the west on the Beechwood side, there's the storage building. It's like really a super shed is what I, but it's,
Yes.
why don't you explain
so,
that?
Sure. So when we initially approached this project, my client wanted to build a two-car garage. And based on the initial review from the town engineer, the numbers for the building coverage were kind of high, and we thought about it. And we ended up, let's scale it back. And we ended up with this super shed, or this boathouse, if you will, which I think works very well. So as I mentioned, there's no basement. There is obviously no other garage. My client wanted a place to store their surfboards and paddle boards and canoes and bikes. And this structure, which is located right here, fit the bill. So basically, it's in the approximate location. There's a parking area that's approximately where it is now. And this structure is located at the foot of that, about 17 foot, almost 18 feet in from the property line. So that is obviously.
I have a question for you. How many square foot is it?
That's 200. Give me a second here. I want to say it's 212 square feet, 221.
So it's actually a shed. You're asking for a.
Yes.
You're asking for a variance on a 200 square foot shed.
Yes, it's not a garage, and to clarify, it's 211 square feet. Yes.
Okay. And the ordinance in town is, Bill or Jim, what is that, 150 square foot?
Yeah, 150 square foot to have the 5 foot setback.
Okay.
Right, but it can't be in a front yard.
Yeah.
This is in a front yard.
Correct.
It's in the front yard, that's correct. So a variance is necessary.
Right.
But keeping in mind that you have 3 street frontages, so there's definitely an element of hardship involved.
It's a super corner lot is what it is. There's 3 sides to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to be respectful. I mean, there's garages, the properties to the west, their garages are like right at the street, maybe 1 or 2 feet off of Beechwood. So this is set back 17 feet.
Yes, so I've now on my screen, I have sheet A 2.1, which shows what this structure in question will look like, both in floor plan. Consists of a storage area, consists of a small gardening shed, if you will, on the west side, and then a small outdoor shower rinsing area on the east side. It is a simple gable structure of approximately 13, it's hard for me to read that here, 13 and a half foot high. So it's the intent here was not to impact the main structure. We didn't want to be too close to it. We didn't want to be any taller than it, and we didn't want to take away from any of its grandeur, if you will. So we wanted to design a very simple yet elegant, what we like to call boathouse.
So you're running water, are you running electricity out there also?
I think that they probably will if the building official, if we're allowed to do that. I think that's the intent, to have some lighting so they can see.
Okay.
So that's how that is, all right?
Okay.
And then, Mark, if you want, maybe we could talk about the fencing. There's a 4-foot fencing that's proposed basically around the property. It's 6 feet at the rear. If you could just talk about that briefly.
Sure. So what I have in front of me here is the obviously the site plan that was submitted, AS1. I'll just walk you through the fence. I'll just start over here at the left side by Beechwood. We have a 4-foot high fence that comes off the building. Currently, there's a fence off of the property line. We're actually relocating our fence to the property line. That again is 4 foot. That continues as 4 foot. If you can see my cursor, that's on there, and it unites over to the proposed storage structure. As we move to the west, on the west side of the structure, we obviously have to have a trash enclosure or storage area. So we've located it there adjacent to the driveway, as well as close proximity to be loaded onto the street on a truck. From there, that is a 4-foot high enclosure. And then from that corner there, we now, since this is really our only rear yard of the property, we have a 6-foot fence constructed across the back. Now, let me talk a little bit about what's going on with the 6-foot fence there. Currently, there is a 6-foot wood fence and a very large hedgerow that exists from this westerly, southwesterly corner on Beechwood to the north to the neighbor's corner of the neighbor's house. And that's effectively a very large screen. It goes right to the property line, and it's, I believe it's honeysuckle or what have you, that it's fairly dense. At some point in this vicinity here by the corner of the structure, the fence then goes to a roughly 4-foot high picket style fence, and that continues all the way north until we get to Laurel. That's how the situation is now. What we're planning is to, if I back up from Laurel, from this corner here, we're going to plan a 4-foot picket style fence until we get to the point where the neighbor's porch meets the house. We would then transition to our 6-foot fence, which we're allowed in a rear yard. The reason obviously there is so that when somebody's on their porch, they don't feel like they're looking at a wall. This is a 4-foot fence here. And my client has already spoken with the neighbor and talked about that. So that's our plan, to transition it roughly at that point, which is about 20 feet in, 23 feet in from the boundary line.
Right.
At that point, that fence will run along that edge at 6 foot all the way until the corner. And as it gets to this point here, it's actually going to be blocking or covering the neighbor's fence as well as the hedgerow, which is at least 6 foot, the hedgerow itself.
So I have another question, and I'm trying to be diplomatic about this, but where the garbage enclosure is in a front yard, and the house is, where's the kitchen?
Kitchen, if you see my cursor, the kitchen's here.
Okay, and the garbage is there.
Garbage is here. Yes.
Why can't the garbage be somewhere in back of the let's call it an accessory structure? Oh, not there. No. Oh, no. Come down. Right. No.
Left.
Go a little to the right. No. Not there. There
Here.
you go. Okay.
Okay.
That garbage, that trash enclosure shouldn't be on the street side. And you can wheel that right out to the driveway.
Yeah, one of the reasons why we didn't want to do that is because trash enclosures, especially as we get into the summer months, tend to not have a very good odor about them. and they're often hard to conceal. So
Especially on the street side to other people.
Right next to the sidewalk and next to someone else's property, right next to the street. That's exactly the point. They're not pleasant.
Exactly.
That side of Beechwood is all driveways and garages. Like the contiguous property, that's their backyard and their driveway and their garage, and then the same for the house to the west. And across the way, there's not a house that would face that. I mean, I think Beechwood back in the day was designed with the backyards, the garage is kind of on the Beechwood side and the house is facing the Laurel Avenue side.
It's just my opinion that it's far away from the house, too close to the street. I would never vote yes for that. But, you know, again, I'm going to defer to my professionals on that, Mr. Higgins and Mr. Fitzgerald. But
I agree with you, Henry.
I got a question. The shaded area is in the back of the house. The addition is being put to the back of the house?
Yes.
That is correct, to the west side of the structure, yes.
And how's the garbage in the front of the house?
Well, there's 3 front yards. The garbage is actually located here, and there's a side door here that one would walk around to it. Actually, come around this way, I'm sorry, go this way.
Okay.
I still can't fathom why you'd put a trash enclosure that close to the street.
What is going to be in the trash enclosure?
Trash.
The two trash. The recyclable and the regular trash. Why can't they be put in the shed?
Why can't they what?
Why can't they be put in the shed?
Should be.
The structure requires a variance because it's in the front yard. So when the board gets to that, they'll make a determination.
I mean, I guess my comment back would be, and you might remember, Mr. Higgins and Mr. Fitzgerald, we originally submitted the plan with a 2-car garage, and in response to your comments that the footprint was too big or the building cover was too big, we came back with this like radically smaller structure that we're using for our shed. And Mark, our architect, has it designed nicely. The outside of it has a nice finish to it. That's why. I mean, I guess if we were going to put the stuff in the shed, then we would have to make the shed bigger. It's
I
not
think
like
if you read my response last August, I asked you to make the garage bigger so that you could store things there, including the garbage if you needed to.
Well, for the footprint, that I'm giving you, this is the applicant's position to really minimize the footprint on the lot.
So if you want to minimize the footprint on the lot, what I would do is I would move the trash enclosure closer to the house, maybe in back of the shed. I just can't see the trash enclosure on Beechwood.
Okay, and that's Mr. Fitzgerald speaking. I can't see. I'm sorry.
No, that's Mr. Shepherd speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there is a residence directly across the street.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question.
There's a front yard of a residence directly across the street.
Yes, on the other side of the room, correct.
Yeah. The garage for the adjacent residence is adjacent to where the trash area is, but there are several residences directly across the street from where that trash area is located.
Right.
I think it would be better located behind the shed if you're going to have it outdoors and exposed.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. So, I mean, Mark and we can work with the applicant to move that. I mean, Patty, are you okay with moving that, with us putting it somewhere else?
I think I'm happy to work on that. I do have one of my neighbors who lives across the street there is on the call, is on this Zoom, Google tonight. If you wanted another opinion as well, because this is, I mean, all the garbage goes out on the street, and part of it is the ease of getting these huge recycling bins to the street. The only way to do it is from the driveway because they're big. I mean, you know how big Ocean Township ones are. I'm a little person. My husband is not much bigger, but you know, just the ease of getting it out, and the way Mark designed it, it was a really beautiful enclosure, so you don't even see it. And then we just roll it out and put them back. And we felt that they were very out of the way there, tucked away in the side of the driveway. That was our thought. Because the whole reason to go smaller with the shed in the garage, part of it was to be really respectful of the air and light of our neighbors behind us, and trying to really do something that had less height and took up, you know, that they didn't have to sit on their back deck and look at our big garage. So we really designed everything really trying to be respectful of our neighbors.
Let me make a suggestion just to think about. From the patio, the proposed patio behind your covered porch, that's a paver path, is it not, that heads toward Beechwood and runs right adjacent to your proposed storage building? Your proposed storage building, am I correct on that? Yeah. Right. So, one of the problems I have, and it seems pretty easy to fix, is that parking stalls in the town have to be 18 feet. And we don't want cars hanging into the right of way and they can't touch a door. So, I mean, if you set the proposed storage building back, say 20 feet, and went to the 5-yard setback, went for the 5-foot setback, which I think they'd be allowed, even though they're asking for a front yard setback. Am I correct on that, Jim? That building, even in the size, could be 5-foot setback, or does the size preclude that?
No, the size precludes that in terms of what's permitted, but given the constraints of the site, I don't see a problem with having a 5-foot setback especially with the building that they're proposing.
Right. All right, if the proposed storage building was set back 20 feet from the street line and 5 feet from the property line, that's to the west, right? Can you put a separate enclosure for refuse with similar architecture and a couple of doors on the east side of the proposed storage building, and then extend that walk all the way out to the existing sidewalk? Pull the walk, obviously, a little bit east of where the enclosure would be. I wish I could point on that, but I can't. But if you come down under, yeah, put it right along that wall, exactly, and then move the sidewalk again in that direction down and run the brick paver walk right out to the street. Now you could pull the refuse containers out from there, out to the street on the walk path. I mean, it's not like they're leaky or they're good containers. That would solve a whole lot of problems. Get away from the parking space variance, get the refuse area. I don't know whether is it have to be out of the required front yard, Jim, or does it have to be out of the front yard?
It's not supposed to be in the required front yard, but again, that's a variance situation and it's a unique site.
And if the architecture was nice enough, like match the storage building architecture, it could work pretty well.
So on the east side of the accessory structure, we have a rinsing area that's accessible to my client as they come back from the beach or what have you, and then progress to the house. So that's why we've designated this area, which would be that area I think you're referring to as the rinsing area.
Okay. There's no flexibility in that. I mean, you got the whole the whole north side of the proposed storage shed. What is that?
That's the backyard north of the storage shed. I mean, that's the resulting backyard.
I'm asking you why the rinsing area couldn't be right on somewhere along the back wall of your proposed storage shed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Could you go back to the layout of the shed? Now, if you were to take the door for that area and put it on the, I guess that's the north side. And then have on the east side, have a little area, which doesn't even have to have a roof. It just should be enclosed, aesthetically pleasing, where the garbage cans would go. And then access the other area from the north side through a door. And then
I think
somebody that
I
wants
think
to
what
rent it out walks right there to the house.
So I think what I would offer, without speaking with my client, but I think Patty and I spent a lot of time organizing this space in such a manner. So I would say that if the intent was to eliminate a storage or trash storage area outside of the building, we would want to make this structure a little bit bigger, keeping the same arrangement so that we could store the trash inside of the structure and not change the way that we've designed it.
Right. Well,
Patty, is that fair to say?
I'd like to say something without belaboring this point. Okay, we really can't redesign what you've done. We can make some suggestions, and Mr. Fitzgerald can, and Mr. Higgins can. If you're gonna want to make something bigger or something different, you're probably gonna have to come back. So it's
a technical review meeting, Mr. Chairman, between the applicant professionals and Jim and me.
Okay, yeah, I think that's what you really need to do.
Okay, I mean, I think, couldn't we stipulate that we could just leave the same building coverage, because we're going to be using that trash structure. If we could just agree that we'll move it to another spot, and then Mr. Fitzgerald and Mr. Higgins will approve it. We'll work with the architect to figure out where that goes.
We're not going to.
Yeah, but it needs to be a conforming spot, right?
Yeah, Mr. Felton, why don't we sit down and have a technical review meeting, figure out what the best way is to try to meet what everybody needs, the board and the applicants, and whatever it is, and come back for that.
I guess, were there any other issues though with the application other than the trash enclosure?
I really, well, hold it, everyone, please. Let's move away from this application to schedule a TRM within the next 2 weeks, okay, or 3, depending on how long it takes for you to redesign. And we will have a discussion about this, but I think that we're really getting, in the quagmire as opposed to getting any forward progress.
Right. I just want to make sure, Mr. Kirk, I just want to make sure that nobody from the board has any other concerns. Are there any other concerns?
I think Ron's right. There's too much to it. TRM's better.
Right.
Also, Jim's report does have a little, I believe, you got lot coverage, by the way, over the 35% area. Okay, it's going from 26.7% to 38.8%.
Right.
So that, I don't know if the board's concerned with that. And the other thing is that Jim references the fences, which are, I think maybe another style of fence at 4 feet. It's not open enough, is what Jim's saying.
We may want to have some description of the fence so that the board can understand what the fence is going to look like.
And if I could, the fence is a style of fence made by Walpole. It's the Walcott style, but it's the way it's shown in the picture isn't how we're going to do it because it's a custom fence. I picked that one because the slats are wider, so it has a more cottage feel that goes with the architectural style of the house, but we're going to have more space in between the slats. I want more air in between it.
Why don't you work that out at the TRM with the engineer and the planner, and I think that there's a lot coverage. But how much is the lot coverage?
It's 3.8%. It's 38.8%.
So Henry, that's a great point. I was going to say, if they're asking for a little inclination from us, I can always give a little bit on lot coverage if it's going to help some other stuff. So that's all I'll say.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's some very, very aesthetically pleasing aspects to this application that might justify a minor lot coverage variance as they're requesting. But that's something the board has to make their own decision on.
So let's why don't we do this? Why don't we carry this case to the meeting of, somebody tell me when the next meeting is, please.
May 20th? Is it
May
5:20?
20th. Yes.
Okay, so let's carry the application of Klein Cronum to May 20th with no further notice needed, correct, Mr. Steinberg?
That's correct. Mr. Tilton, you're going to grant the board an extension of time in which to make its determination?
Absolutely, yes.
And you'll be getting a form tomorrow from Amy, which you will sign and send back?
Yes, and then
The other thing is, the other announcement, if we're going to carry it to the next meeting without further public notice, it will not be on the go-to-meeting invitation that you're in tonight. It will be on the Zoom invitation, which is on tonight's agenda for future reference and will be on the agenda for next month. So to anybody interested, it's Zoom next month, not go-to-meeting.
And then I'll touch base with Amy or Mr. Fitzgerald or to set up, to get on the meeting. Someone will tell me when the technical review meeting is.
Yeah, I think you just contact Amy and she'll set it all up for you.
And she'll send you an extension of time form.
Yes, understood. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
All right, you too.
Okay, thank you.
That brings us to our next case. Case number 4, Eddie and Sharon Dayan, block 1401, lot 8, 251 Wilson Avenue, Ocean, New Jersey, zone R4. This is an application to construct an in-ground pool patio, 6-foot vinyl fence, 5 and 6 foot hedge within the required front yard setback, Wilson Avenue and Garfield Avenue, as well as within the required rear yard setback. Attorney for the applicant, Jeffrey Donner. Mr. Donner, are you here?
I am here.
Okay.
Can you hear
Amy,
me?
please mark the packet.
Okay.
Mr. Donner, who's going to testify?
We have 2 witnesses tonight. David Besh from Nelson Engineering, who will go over the plot plan that we submitted, plus the revised one that we have recently submitted that will ultimately be our plot plan. But we've been working on some accommodations with Mr. Fitzgerald, who has actually really improved our plan. And we're very grateful to him for that. And we also have Barbara Allen from Beacon Planning, who's a planner who has qualified before this board as an expert in planning before.
Okay. Ms. Allen, please raise your right hand.
It's
Do you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Barbara Allen. I work with Beacon at Beacon Planning and Consulting Services, and our office address is 315 Route 34, Suite 129 in Colts Neck, New Jersey.
And you've testified before this board before, correct?
Yes,
Many
I have.
times. Okay. Where's Mr. Bash?
Mr. Bash is here.
Where?
Waving his hand.
He's on the square right beneath you.
Oh, hi, Mr. Bash. How are you?
I'm well. How are you this morning? Or evening?
Mr. Bash, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And you've testified about 1 million times before this board, right?
Give or take a few. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Donner, is either Eddie or Sharon Dayan going to speak?
No, they're not going to testify this evening.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Dayan, please tell us what's going on here. Mr. Donner.
All right, we're going to. No problem, Mr. Spiega. I'd like to start with the testimony of Mr. Besh, who will review the site plan that we originally submitted and the revised one that we have recently submitted, and I believe Mr. Fitzgerald has seen. Mr. Besh, could you in fact share your screen if we can get the permission from Ms. Stewart? Amy, can we have Dave share the screen?
Yes.
All right, Dave, I think you have permission to share the screen. Would you put up the first plan? All right,
Okay.
This is the original plan that was submitted with the application. And I know it's part of the packet, but I would suggest that we mark it as A1. and I will submit a digital copy marked that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Dave, would you?
I'm not sure if this is the packet only contains the revised plan.
Okay.
I can go there.
Okay, well,
They're definitely marked this
you know,
as A1.
Mark, I started this way because I thought the members of the board probably only saw this particular.
No, I have no problem how you want to start. I'm just saying we should mark this as A1 because it is not in the packet.
Okay, all right. If the members have the revised plan, I think we can skip over the initial plan. I just wanted to have some continuity, and we can start with the plan that they have because it's the only plan they've ever seen. So we'll mark the revised plan as A1. And Dave, if you would, could you review that plan for us, please?
To be fair, what's before the board now is what's before the board now. And what we discussed was presentation of an exhibit to address some engineering concerns and be considered with respect to the planning concerns that are out there. Okay, so I think you really need to start with what's been submitted as part of the application. This is can only be an exhibit.
Yeah, but it's not been.
Okay,
I see.
all right.
I agree, Mark. It needs to be edited. Yeah, I think we're better off starting here from a legal point of view.
Let's start with the plan that we submitted. That's marked as A1. It's what's before everybody on Mr. Besh's sharing of the screen. And Dave, could you review what we have here on the site plan, please?
Sure, absolutely.
Dave, can you just get the date of that plan?
I didn't hear you. Could you repeat that?
We get the date of that plan that's on the screen. Too small for me to read. Oh, too small for me to read.
I believe it's October 16, 2020.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Dave, looking at what we have marked as A1, this is the original plan that we submitted with the application back in November. Could you review the highlights of this plan, please?
Okay, the property is located on the southwest corner of the intersection of Wilson Avenue and Garfield Avenue. The property is slightly undersized for the R4 zone where 10,000 square foot property is required, and the property is only 9,687.5 square feet. But the more unique characteristics of this particular property is that the width where the house the front facade of the building faces Wilson Avenue, where the width is 125 feet. So that would make the depth only 77.5 feet. So a variance existing non-conforming condition for the lot depth where 100 feet is required. Again, we only have 77.5. Additionally, what's, shall we say, unique about this particular property is that the house does face Wilson Avenue rather than it fronting on the narrower frontage and facing Garfield. If that had been the case where the house was located adjacent to Garfield Avenue, fronting Garfield Avenue, it probably would have left a much more usable and functional rear yard. But that not being the case, the structure is located only approximately 29 feet from the southern property line and 24 feet from the western property line. So in order to install the proposed amenity being a pool, we look to the yard area that would provide the most functional ability to develop the proposed pool. When applying the required setback of 10 feet from adjacent side and rear property lines, it left an unusable or non-functional area for the pool development. That's why we selected to develop the design with the pool in the northern line, although it being a technical front yard area and requesting the variances associated with it. So the design as shown shows the the pool itself being located 15 feet from the right-of-way line of Garfield Avenue. The pool is located 11 feet from the western property line. And we're proposing a 6-foot-high solid vinyl fence to enclose the pool area with a landscape perimeter to the outside of that fence. There are associated walkways and patios with the pool, but there are a number of pre-existing variance conditions regarding the front yard setback of the existing house to Wilson Avenue, the rear yard setback to the western property line. Now, with regard to coverage, the proposal does not require a coverage variance, where the ordinance permits a maximum of 90% of the buildable lot area. This proposal only covers 47.49% of the buildable lot area. So for intensity of development, we're not at anywhere close to the maximum. It's just the, shall we say, the awkward placement of the dwelling that necessitates the placement of the proposed improvements in the northern yard. Now,
Okay.
Jeff, did you want to interject?
No, I didn't want to interrupt you, Dave. If you had something else to say, please continue.
No, we are proposing a stormwater management system to be placed to control the stormwater runoff from the proposed improvements, as well as to include roof leader connections to improve to the greatest degree possible the stormwater management function of the subject property. That management system.
And Paige, go ahead.
I'm going to, let's see if I can find page 2, which would show, again, the drainage system being an underground stormwater containment and recharge system that in the event of an extreme storm event where the system would be filled, it could very gradually overflow to the Garfield Avenue right-of-way, whereby it would be directed to and collected by the municipal stormwater systems. That is the design of that has been before the board. Now, in discussions, Mr. Fitzgerald had expressed some concerns regarding the site safe distance from the driveway on the property immediately to the west. So as part of the, shall we say, the discussion, we had looked at an alternative design, shifting some things around in order to increase the visibility of the from the driver on the adjacent driveway in an easterly direction toward the intersection of Wilson Avenue and Garfield Avenue. The result of that modification is the pool was shifted approximately 5 feet further east, so that the pool would be, the eastern edge of the pool would be aligned with the easternmost facade of the house, and the fence line along the eastern edge would be aligned with the existing porch at the southeast side of the house. That would bring the pool setback to the right-of-way at Wilson Avenue at 25 feet and the fence setback to approximately 21 feet. We are showing a chamfered northwest corner of the pool and pool patio that would allow the fence to be angled back in order to provide more clear sight distance in an easterly direction. The The pool still remains at 15 feet from the right-of-way of Garfield Avenue. Fence line at 11 feet from the right-of-way of Garfield Avenue. And there's one continuing variance related to the pool patio, where if the patio area adjacent to the pool is wider than 10 feet, it is required to have this 10-foot setback, same 10-foot setback as the pool requirement. However, at the point where the walkway from the back door on the east side of the house circulates around the pool equipment and HVAC units, at that point, when it clears the fence line, it then turns from a walkway to the patio, and we only provide a 7-foot setback at that location where 10 feet is required.
I just have one question, Dave. So by shifting it further towards the front of the house, you're creating 2 new variances for the front yard setback from Wilson, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. But the trade-off, of course, is the safety and the chamfering of the natural fencing.
Correct. We were also looking at the landscape additions to the outside of the fence would be limited to materials that would not exceed 30 inches in height to further not enhance, but would not block the site visibility in that direction.
Dave, is that all the way around the fence or just in that one area?
There would be landscaping all the way around. It's just along the eastern property line. No, I'm sorry, the western property line. The landscaping would be on the inside of the fence because we always strongly recommend that the fence be located on the property line where possible.
That would be limited to 30 inches in height?
I'm sorry, on the outside, it would be limited to 30 inches in height. On the inside, and once we get beyond the front yard setback areas, those could go up to 6 feet.
So anything within the setbacks is 30 inches.
Anything within the front yard areas would be limited to 30 inches in height.
Dave, I have another question I think is very pertinent, and that is there is construction going on that property to the immediate west. It appears that a new house is being built. Is the house that you're reflecting on this plan consistent with what's being built on that lot now?
Yes, when we updated the topographic survey for this property, our surveyors did locate the 2 building corners for that structure. Now, let me see if I can pan over, and you can see in the aerial photograph the foundation of that building. So yes, what is reflected on this plan is accurate to the building that is under construction.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay.
Mr. Best, I have a question. Where is the pool equipment? Filters, things like that? I can't see. It's very small.
Okay, in the area, it's on the west side of the dwelling, but immediately adjacent, we have 2 proposed HVAC units and the pool filter and heater, all located within its individual fenced area.
That's compliant.
Yes, it is. The pool filter, the closest piece of equipment is 14 feet from the western property line.
And the requirement is 10 feet.
Right.
That's correct.
Correct.
And how tall is that fence?
David,
The fence around the pool perimeter.
No, in the back. Yeah, right there.
Oh, in the back, that would only be 4 foot high.
Okay.
Let him go on to talk about the fence around the pool, because that requires a variance, because they're in front yards.
Okay.
Yeah, we are requesting a 6 foot high fence, solid vinyl fence for the pool safety requirement.
The pool safety requirement is 4 feet.
Correct.
So I just want the board to understand that.
And how far, what is the setback on that from,
Garfield Avenue?
yes.
Garfield Avenue is shown at 11 feet.
Is 11 feet the planting or the fence, David? I thought
That
I
is
thought
the
the
fence.
fence was 15.
No, the pool is 15. The fence is
Okay.
11.
Got it.
Yeah, the
11
planting is about 7.
and 21 feet from Wilson.
And yes, 21 feet. The fence, 21 feet from the fence to the Wilson Avenue right of way.
That's correct.
And what the plantings on the outside of the fence?
That hasn't been determined, but again, I've been thinking about like decorative grasses, perennials, and lower ground covers, mugo pines, ground cover junipers, and just an assortment, not a straight hedge line, but an assortment of plantings with varied heights and colors and seasons.
Should use a lot of evergreens too, though, whether they be broadleafed or needle-leafed and flowering. And Oregon honey grape is a nice variety to throw in there, maybe. But I mean, you want to screen the fence all year. The fence is close
If
to.
the board wants to approve this, it definitely should
Right,
be.
yeah, obviously.
What did you say? Jim, I didn't hear you.
Oh, so if the board decides to approve this, the fence should be screened year round. Maybe not with a solid screen, but there should be substantial plantings that break it up. And the other thing that should be considered, again, if the board does want to approve this, is that the fence, they may want to consider, rather than a 6-foot fence, a lower fence, or a fence with a decorative top, like was discussed earlier this evening with the other application.
I kind of like the fact that on the Garfield Avenue side that it was a 6-foot fence, but I'd like to see, and this is just my opinion, I'd like to see some kind of decorative top rather than a just a big solid white fence and then some landscaping on the outside. I think that if you could, and Dave, you're pretty creative, you know, it's up to you, but it's up to the property owner actually. And then some plantings that stay green all winter, so that when you drive by, it just doesn't look like a wall.
If this is approved, did you want a landscaping plan to the planner?
I think so.
Absolutely, understood.
This is one application where I strongly advise, if board members have not gone and looked at the site, that before you act on this application, you go out and you look at the site. Because the plan looks very, very different than when you go out and actually look at the site. I think it's something you really need to do.
I was only going to ask that, Jim, because so I thought I heard from you and more Bill, the sitescape, you know, he's taught me a lot about that one since I've been on this board. Like, so there's a safety concern still about that, the way that fence cuts off a sight line, or no, for traffic? It was earlier on.
What is shown on this exhibit has alleviated my safety concern, both as to a vehicle entering from the driveway, backing or driving forward into Garfield Avenue, and for a westbound vehicle on Garfield Avenue, viewing a car exiting the driveway onto Garfield Avenue. So in other words, the sight distance concern that I had, which is a substantial concern in my opinion, is alleviated. The stormwater management.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was going to say, if you're good with that, then, you know, I'll defer to how you guys want to handle this. But that, to me, I defer to you 100%. If that's an issue, then it's an issue. But if it's not, then we can move to the next part. Sorry.
Well, let me just summarize my report real quickly then, because what I said was the safety concern has been alleviated to my satisfaction. I appreciate the effort that the applicant and their designer put in. The stormwater management system is acceptable, actually will make things better than they presently exist as to downstream impacts. Having said that, I said extensively in my report, they need to address the planning concerns that the board planner outlined to the satisfaction of the board, and they're not inconsequential. I was just trying to come up with whatever could be done to make it better, but there's planning
But I think
concerns.
those two are big ones, though. They're two big ones, so that's good.
And that's why we have Barbara Allen here.
Well,
Yeah, Barbara Allen is going to definitely address Mr. Higgins' concerns and the whole planning perspective. But I just wanted to point out there was a suggestion of making the top of the fence a lattice work or a decorative area, and that's totally acceptable to the applicant.
Okay.
So you're now proposing a 5-foot fence with a 1-foot lattice type top, 1 4-foot
Yes.
of solid and 1-foot lattice top?
Yes, sir.
Lattice or other open deck.
The chairman preferred 6 with a.
I preferred 6 foot, 5 foot solid with a foot of some kind of decorative material.
Open.
Okay. That's what I thought.
That is acceptable. As is the varied planting plan that Mr. Besh was talking about, and we will rely upon him to supplement that and make that come to life with a landscaping plan. But all of those things are acceptable to the applicant.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any more questions from the board for Mr. Besh?
So I
have a question.
This is Wes Montes. I'm not sure if this is for Mr. Besh or for your planner. I'm not necessarily opposed to a 6-foot fence, but I'm less sanguine about it than Henry. I'm just wondering if one of the two witnesses can explain why, the pool safety fence is 4 feet. Why can't it be 4 or maybe 4 plus a foot decorative on top? Why does it have to be 6?
Well, there's also the concern for privacy and security for this yard area as well. That's why we're asking for the 6-foot high fence.
Any other questions for Mr. Besh?
Chairman, it's John Fuller. As I look at maps here, there seems to be like a tree line between properties, there's a subject property and then where there seems to be building going on. Are those trees on the subject property? Are they on the neighbor's property? Are they there? Are they going to be leaving?
Are you referring to the aerial photograph on the exhibit?
Yep.
Those trees, I believe, are on the subject property. Clearly, we would be taking out the trees that are on the northern side where the pool and patio are to be installed. The others on the property, we have no intention to remove those.
Okay, so you'll be creating you'll be putting a fence between the properties and then kind of creating a brand new buffer. That's what that shows on the plan. Is that right? Like the new plantings along the fence?
We're proposing plantings along the new fence line. We were not providing any information other than immediately adjacent to the project area.
Sure. Yeah, I understand. My question was, were there trees on the neighbor's property, but those trees that are that we can see in the aerial will be removed, and that's where the fence will be, right?
Yeah, we'll be removing the trees in the northern and northwestern areas. The trees to the south and east are to remain.
Okay. And then from
going to be removed?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
How many trees will be removed?
I don't have that number. I believe it's approximately 3. Okay. One near the northeast corner, one center north, and one near the northwest corner of the building.
Yeah.
Does he have to
street trees
comply with the tree removal ordinance? Jim?
Yeah, I have to check on that and see. I believe it does have to, because it's development application, but I'm not sure whether that applies to single family or not. I don't recall.
No, but I mean, it goes to softening the variances that they're asking for. So it's not a bad proposal on their part, or if, if that would help promote their case.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Definitely.
we will provide a tree removal plan that and shows all the trees on the site that have a 6-inch caliper or greater, indicate those that will be removed. And if the board requires that street trees be installed to conform to the current spacing standards along the streets, I'm sure the applicant would be more than happy to do so.
I think it'd be good.
The important thing is no tree that you plant along the street is going to cast any shade or shadow on the area they're proposing to develop for your pool and patio.
Yeah, that's to the north side, so it's not going to cast a shadow on our pool.
Okay.
And then as that house is being built, are you able to tell, is the entryway is it going to be up high? Is it really ground level? Cutting to the chase of what I'm getting at is, when the folks come out of their front door and they look to the right, are they going to be looking at the pool, into the pool? Is there any way you could tell that by what they've done so far?
I haven't evaluated that.
Yeah, but the proposal is a pool to be parallel or running right into their front yard, basically, right? That's the way it lines up. The front of the house, the side of the house, the subject house lines up with the front of the house, right there. So
It actually looks like the pool is going to be to the side of the new house.
The new house, it's built already. They're talking about a house to be built, it's already built.
No, it's going to line up. I think John is correct. It's going to be 5 feet roughly, or 6 feet north of the north end of the existing home. So it's going to line up pretty much with what you'd call a stoop at the entry exit of the front facade of the house under construction.
Yes.
It can be screened. I mean, there's going to be a fence there. You can have some planting. You don't have to have a solid wall, but there could be even an ornamental tree put along the inside of that fence, so that it like a crepe myrtle or something that has a nice crown on it and gives you flowers for a huge time of the year, almost 5 months.
Right. On the inside of the western fence line, we can come up with a landscape design that would enhance any screening of the proposed pool from the adjacent foyer.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Besh from the board? Any questions from the public for Mr. Besh? Mr. Donner.
Yes, sir. I am prepared to excuse Mr. Besh from the stand and to call Ms. Allen, our planning expert.
Okay, so Ms. Allen, we're running short on time, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, Mr. Chairman, and I address the question to Mr. Donner. Typically, it's a real good idea for the planner strategically to have everything out there and incorporate all of that into the arguments addressing the planning, which is, as I said earlier, and read Mr. Higgins' report, not inconsequential. So if we're going to be some design changes, for example, some street trees, a screening or some type of innovative plantings along the westerly rear yard that matches up to the front yard of the westerly lot, that might be beneficial to be on the record and reviewed by the board before it incorporates or expresses their arguments.
Actually, I had noted how late it was. And if the suggestion is that we not present Ms. Allen, but hold her testimony to May 20th, and then have the supplements that Mr. Besh was talking about, have Ms. Allen testify with all those things in mind, and then allow me to have a stirring closing argument, I will certainly agree.
Okay.
Well, that's what I was hinting at.
Mr. Chairman, we can't come to a
Yes.
vote on it tonight anyhow, because there was a service question, which I think that the applicant has resolved, but I wanted to give another week to get a receipt from him as to a notice that is sort of like hung up in New York. So I wasn't going to permit the vote
There's another
tonight.
issue too, Mark, that Jim had made a really good point that I wholeheartedly concur with, and that's that the board members should visit the site. Take a look at the neighborhood, take a look at the site, take the plan with you.
I think it takes us longer to adjourn an application than it does to decide on one.
At times.
I'm just kidding.
So we're going to carry this case, case number 4, Eddie and Sharon Day to block 1401, lot 8, Wilson Avenue, Ocean, to May 20th, with no further notice required. Correct, Mr. Steinberg?
No further notice or publication required. This will be on the Zoom format and not on the GoToMeeting, which again has been on that address is on our agenda tonight, and it will be on the May 20th agenda. And Mr. Donner's going to supply me with one more proof of service also, so that we can totally have all service resolved.
Thank you.
And Mr.
Thank
Donner,
you,
Mr. Donner's going to extend the time in which the application, which the board has to act
May
on the
20th.
application, and you'll sign the form.
I'll fill out that form with Ms. Stewart tomorrow, but for the record, we do consent to extend the time to the meeting of May 20th.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
We have 5 minutes?
I think we're going to give everyone 5 minutes, but Mr. Kirk, I hate to do this. Case number 5 is there, but we're at 10 o'clock already. Look, I'll go all night, but
I need us to look. I need us all to get through case number 6. I need the board to understand that by the time an application makes it to the board, we've already exhausted all of our avenues, and the applicants know what they can and cannot do. So we really need to start voting on what's been presented and move on. Otherwise, there are people that have been waiting 3 months, 6 months to be heard, and we're not getting anywhere.
You know what? And these are tough times. I'll stay all night if you guys need. I don't care. I'll vote all night.
I think the next 4 applications are, except for, I don't know about Cito, but the other 3 seem to be pretty straightforward. So
I don't have a problem with this if no one else does on the board, but I'd like to take 5 minutes or so now, okay?
Okay, and everyone would like to thank you all.
All right,
I'll stay.
I'm fine with that also. I'll stay on. It's Shawan DeBeal.
Me too.
All right, we'll have enough.
Okay, 5 minutes.
Exactly 5 minutes and then back so we can get.
Don't get lost.
Okay.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
I'm here.
Mr. Malta,
Yeah.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Here.
Mr. Worrell,
Here.
Mrs. Beal,
Here.
Mr. Mamie, no, Mr. Ashkenazi,
Here.
Chairman Shepherd,
Here. I bet you Mr. Mamie found ice cream. Okay. Okay, case number 5. Geraldine Bamira, I hope I pronounced that right. Block 25, lot 42, 15 Shadow Lawn Drive, Ocean, Zone R2. This is an application to construct a roof over an existing rear deck with a rear yard setback of 40 feet where required is rear yard setback where 40 feet is required and 23.5 feet is proposed. Mrs. Bamara, are you here?
It's Jerry Bamira. Yes, I am. Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
That's good. Amy, please mark the packet. Amy?
Yes.
Amy's been having difficulties getting kicked out, but she's marked the packet.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm marking the packet.
All right, please tell us what you'd like to do.
We would like to have an overhang on our existing deck because we are east-west and we have full sun all day, and it's just way too hot to sit out there without some coverage. So we're just looking for a little bit of shade on our deck in the back of our house. Nobody can see it but us. It's totally hidden from the street.
Okay, and you're protecting yourself from
harmful sun.
From sun. From
bad sun rays. Good. Okay. Mr. Higgins.
Yeah, I have no problem at all with this application. They're just putting a roof over a deck. It's going to be still going to be an open deck, and the property immediately behind the site is a 50-foot wide open space conservation area, so nobody's going to see this, and I think it makes sense.
Thank you.
Mr. Fitzgerald, anything?
I think she needs an environmental impact statement, Mr. Chairman. No, I have absolutely no problem with it. I think it's a good application. I want to do the same thing if it was my home.
Is it, if I'm not mistaken, we're only putting the cover over part of the deck?
Correct. It's about 2/3 of the deck.
Okay, that's fine. That's the way the plan shows. That's fine. Thanks.
Any questions from the board?
Well, will the roof material be the same as your existing roof, or what kind of material are you going to use for the roofing?
It'll probably be wood. It'll be similar to the deck material.
Okay, it's gonna.
But it'll blend. It'll blend with the rest of the house, of course.
It's gonna match.
Okay. It's not gonna match. It'll blend.
Yeah, it'll match.
I got it. It's in the back of it. Okay.
Yes.
I got it.
Any questions from the board?
Chairman, my only question is, what do we have to approve?
We're approving
what she has now
is a setback.
Yes. What she has now is a rear deck in her rear yard. But since the deck is not 3 feet in height, you don't have that rear yard setback requirement. Once you put the roof on it, becomes a structure. Although it's now 23.5 feet from the rear without a variance because you don't need it. Once you put the roof on, you need the variance. But it's an existing deck she's covering.
Yeah, so 40-foot setbacks required. The roof will be set back 23.5 feet.
Okay.
Okay. Is any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second this order.
Okay, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal.
Yes.
Did Mr. Mamie make it back? No.
He didn't listen to the testimony anyway, so he cannot vote.
He's getting ice cream.
Mr. Eskenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Action on this?
I all prefer a positive resolution to go forward with covering of the deck with a shade.
Second.
Second, Malta.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. And I just want to thank Amy for all her guidance because I did this without any kind of legal help. I did it on my own and she was extremely helpful. So thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right.
Good
Good
job,
night.
Amy. Thank you.
Good night.
Next case is case number 6, Robert and Kathy Giacone, Block 3, Lot 29, 10 Arno Street, Oakhurst, Zone R5. This is an application to install a pool heater within the required rear yard setback where 10 foot is required and 1 foot is proposed. Mr. and Mrs. Giacone, are you here? Mr. Giacone, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please turn your microphone on.
Mr. Giacone, can you bring up the volume perhaps? On the bottom right.
Yeah, sometimes his computer is not ready to turn, the computer volume is not in tune with the Zoom program. Microphone, I'm sorry.
Come up.
All right, Mr. Giacone, could you try to call in? Because we can't hear you. Thank you.
Oh, he wants to know a number.
Wait, another one after this, Henry, or no? I can't, I don't have my agenda.
The number is 786-535-3211.
Is he the last one?
We have 2 more.
Oh, do you want to go to those others while he calls in?
Let's see if he gets through on this one.
This shouldn't take too long.
He needs the access code.
You got to give him the code.
All right, 114-689-133.
Amy, maybe you could put the agenda up on the screen so you can see the number and code.
You can't get through, I don't think.
Go to the next one, let him call in.
You want to go to the next case and let him, and we'll come back?
We'll come back to Mr. Giacone.
If you click on the settings button at the top right, it gives you instructions on the dial.
All right, I'm gonna move along, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
I want to get another one done. Next case, case number 7. Mark, do I have to say anything that we're waiting?
No, Mr. Giacome's going to call in. We're going to handle him tonight.
Okay.
Right?
Next case, case number 7. Amy
He's
Shito.
asking a question.
He needs the number.
Okay, number is 786-535-3211. It's busy.
It's busy. Jesus,
Okay, the last thing we can try, Mr. Giacone, is to go to put your cursor at the top of your screen.
Let's go to the next one.
And there's a couple little dots that come up.
What's next?
Want me to go next?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Next case number 7. Amy Shito, block 68, lot 15, 514 Corliss Avenue, Ocean, New Jersey, R5. This is an application to construct a one-story addition with covered porch entry, patio, generator with variances for minimum front yard setback where 30 feet is required and 15.5 feet is proposed, as well as a maximum building coverage of 35% and building coverage where 35% is permitted and 40.4% is proposed. Attorney for the applicant, John Cito. Mr. Cito, how are you tonight?
Thank you.
Mr. Cito, have you?
Pretty good, thank you. John Cito, I'm actually, no, I never appeared before you as well. This is my first time with your board. The applicant's actually my wife, who's present on the other screen. And the individual that's going to testify will be the architect, Al, who's also on the screen as well. And I can just be brief so I can speed it up a little. The original application was for what you...
Mr. Cito, can you give me a minute? Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay.
Who are you having testify, Mr. Cito?
Al Cizassi. I massacred his name. He's the architect.
Mr. Shiashi, could you please raise your right hand? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Have you ever testified before this board before?
Yeah, it's probably about 5 years ago, I think. Yep.
Can you just give us a quick synopsis of your credentials and give us your name and address again, please?
Sure. Name is Al Shasias. If you need that spelled, let me know. Address is 27 First Street in Rumson, New Jersey. I'm a New Jersey licensed architect and landscape architect.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Cito.
Thank you. Al, I just want to go over, there's an original application, then we had a revised application that we did today. But could you tell the board what the original application was and what we've revised it to?
Yes. So I'll go over a little background first. When Amy and John approached me, they had purchased this house in Allenhurst on Corliss Ave. And currently it's a single story. There's a couple steps down, but basically it's a ranch. And they're considering this a retirement home, a long-term home. So in part of doing an addition to expand the usable footprint, a key prerogative was to not go up to a second story. So continue its use as a ranch. What Mr. and Mrs. Cito were looking to add was a master suite, modest size, one car.
Trying to raise.
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. I heard somebody in the background. A study and office, combined study office, attached one car garage, and a mudroom / laundry. So with that, part of the challenge was how do you get this on a site and adding to a one-story ranch? I'll pull up, I guess I can share screen here. Or maybe I can. I don't know if I have that ability or not.
Amy has to give it to you.
Oh, okay.
It's busy.
We just heard you, Mr. Giacomo.
Oh, I am so sorry. I'm going through everything. I apologize.
Don't touch it.
Okay.
Just give us a couple of minutes.
Am I okay now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. I wait my turn.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I'm still presenting, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So again, just to go over the plan real quick, this is the first floor proposed plan. This is the new section, the new addition we're looking to do. This is the existing home. We're looking to add a sunroom in the back, remove an existing pergola, add a modest-sized master suite, new den study, attached garage, and a mud room. And again, in the interest of brevity, if you guys want more information, I'll go through that. The two variances, the two new variances that we're looking for, is predominantly building coverage, and that's 35% permitted. We're just under 40%. And again, a large driver of that is that we're not doing a two-story structure. If we were adding up a second floor, we would be well under on building coverage. So that's one of the variances. The other variance, and I'm sorry, part of this was the revised plan that Mr. Cito referred to, was that we originally had a 15.5-foot setback, which matched the existing front yard setback, and in reality is very standard along Corliss Ave. All the houses to the left, based on aerial imagery, are 15.5 or less, but again, approximately within that range. And then most of the houses on the right within the block are also within that range, not the 30-foot minimum required by the town. I'm a big fan of matching existing setbacks, even if that does not conform. I think it feels better on the street, and I think it gives a better, it just gives a better streetscape feel. So that was one of the variances. However, in talking with the township planner and engineer, they brought up the point of having enough room in front of the garage to the property line that we could fit a car. So we shrunk the floor plan a little bit to the point that we could tolerate functionally. But then in order to get the extra foot to get us from, we got back to 17 foot on the setback. It was recommended to go to at least 18 feet. So because of that, we did conform to the 30-foot rear yard setback, but now we're asking for an additional variance of going to 29 in order to get the extra foot in the front per the township's recommendation. So we would be going for 18 feet in the front, existing 15.5. Rear yard would be reduced from 30 foot proposed originally to 29. So the three variances that we're proposing are building coverage, 35% required, 40% proposed, front yard setback, 30 feet required, 18 foot proposed, and rear yard setback, 30 feet required, 29 feet proposed. So that's kind of a quick overview of the project. So any additional questions or things that you guys want me to review at this late hour, I'm open to.
Oh, Al, just one other thing. There's an existing driveway on the right-hand side that's non-conforming, but has been there since 1930. And could you explain what we're doing in the front of that? That it's going to be grass?
Yeah, that's a good point. So there is an existing garage that is not being used as such, and a driveway. And what we're going to do is basically the driveways are required a 5-yard side yard setback that does not conform. We're going to we're in dealing with the town. We're going to actually and John, if you could help me out here, we're putting grass in along the side yard or just along the front at the existing curb?
We're going to do the entire side 5 feet.
5 feet.
On the right-hand side.
Okay.
I have a question. You said a 5-yard setback. You mean a 5-foot setback?
Yeah, 5 foot side yard setback. Yep.
So essentially, then that takes that driveway, but really makes it no longer a driveway, a functional driveway. Is that correct?
That's correct. They'll just be used for bicycles, summer stuff. Yes.
That was one of my concerns, so that eliminates that concern of mine.
Okay, so you're using the garage for storage, correct?
It's going to be full summer storage bikes. I also have a Vespa that'll be in there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board at this point? So I just have one question. The driveway, is the driveway going to be paved all the way back, or is there going to be some grass there?
No, the driveway, the new one, you mean?
No. I know where the new one is. The driveway to your garage.
Correct.
It's stoned.
That's all stoned.
Okay,
We're gonna remove the stone on the right-hand side.
okay, I understand that.
It'll be a conforming stone path.
How wide will the stone path be?
Probably half the length, probably 6 feet.
7.5 feet.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct.
Now it's 12.5 feet, you're saying?
7.5 feet. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 12.3, 12.4.
Pardon me? Okay, so you're gonna keep a stone path 7.5 foot wide, and you're gonna add a landscape or grassed area from the street to the old garage of 5 feet along that side.
Almost to the garage, but probably about 5 feet before the garage ends. So that's the way there's no grass in front of that garage, because I have a garage door.
Okay.
Okay. Questions from the board? I'm sorry, Mr. Fitzgerald, I forgot. I know you're here. Anything that you want to say?
Well, I mean, this is what I talked over this afternoon with Mr. Cito, because I could see where they were trying to go, but we also need the off-street parking. And I looked at the floor plan real quickly, and Mr. Sesias kind of verified what I had suggested to Mr. Cito, that he could just take that left-hand wing, if you will, and slide it back a couple feet, get the parking. It's another variance, but then you're also eliminating some nonconformity, and it seemed to be a reasonable trade-off.
Okay.
Do we know
Mr.
the
Higgins,
lot?
nothing else to add?
Do we know the lot coverage now that we basically shrunk the addition to some extent?
No, we didn't shrink the addition. We just slid it.
No,
Actually,
he said it's not gonna lot.
He said that they.
I think the architect testified it was just under 40%.
Yeah, and the application says 40.4. So what is it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
So
that's
that was the original plans, and once we modified, partly trying to get to that 18 feet setback, that reduced it to just a hair under 40%.
What's a hair? I don't do resolutions with a hair.
Okay. Yeah. So 2,996 square feet is the proposed building coverage.
Okay, give me the percentage.
Mark, there's a Latin term for hair.
39.95%.
Pardon me?
39.95%.
Okay. All right.
That's a hair.
And permissible is 35.
The attorney asking, I'm sorry.
And the permissible is 35%. So we need some testimony why. Well, yeah.
Well, the main issue here is that not going up to a second story is driving why the footprint is expanded beyond that. So it's not that it's an overly large house, it's that it's a one-story ranch, and Mr. and Mrs. Cito are really looking to keep this as a long-term home. So obviously doing a one-story ranch and continuing the house as such helps in that regard. So it is over on building coverage, but at the same time, as far as the mass of the home, the overall height's approximately 16.5. The zone permits 30 feet. So I think on balance, the fact that instead of having a two-story home, being a one-story home is really reducing the mass, which is a lot of what building coverage zoning ordinances intend to limit. I'd say that's one point. The other point is, all right, so when we're looking at setbacks, we're still conforming to the combined side yard setback. We're almost on the rear yard setback. And the front yard, we're actually close to matching what's existing not only on this property, but along Corley's Ave. So I think, in my opinion, at least as an architect, I see this as a project that it's a minor overage on building coverage, but it really does help the applicants get what they want to do with this house going forward. And at least to me, does not seem to impact negatively neighbors or the streetscape in any way.
And just so the board is aware, if I were testifying on behalf of the applicant, in another community for an identical application, that's exactly the testimony I would have given. I agree with it.
And Jim, what's the
Okay,
general?
so we're good.
Jim, what's the general lot coverage in the area? Most people
The
are
general
maxed out.
lot coverage in the area, from looking at the area, it appears to be consistent with what they're proposing here.
There's small lots, yeah, older section.
Smaller lots
Okay.
with bigger homes.
Okay.
You guys realize when professionals agree, it takes longer to actually agree.
I know.
I don't disagree with that one bit.
Come on, let's go, let's go.
Can we, any questions from the board? Any questions from the public?
I just want to ask the architect on the record, so what are we doing with siding and roofing? We matching it, replacing it?
The roofing, I would imagine we're matching. I would defer to John Cito as far as if there's plans to totally redo it or match.
Mr. Cito, what are you
So
gonna do with the siding?
Everything's gonna be matched. It's gonna be a mirror image. It's all gonna be mirror image of the other house. It's gonna look the exact same. It's gonna be all white, the same as the other side.
Same
We actually
material.
got, the siding is the same and it's available.
Good. Okay.
And we're actually putting the decorative porch on this side as well in the front that'll match the one that's existing on the other property, on the other house. So it's gonna look like it's one. It looks like it'll be one project that was always there, and you would never know.
Henry, please tell me I can make a motion to close the public hearing soon.
Thank you, Mr. Van Wagner.
Mr. Van Wagner, I need a motion
I
to
think I
close the
just
public
did.
hearing.
Yes.
Did we ask for public comment yet?
I did.
Good, okay.
You did about minutes ago.
And I second that motion.
Okay. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. I need action on this.
Yeah, well, just before you do that, you're gonna submit revised plans, right?
I'm gonna what?
Yes.
I mean, they're gonna have to, I'm gonna write it up if the board approves it, but it's gonna be subject to submission and review of revised plans, because you're moving the driveway, extending the driveway and covering the other one. That should all be shown on the final plan.
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
I didn't need action on this.
I'll move that.
I need a second.
Russ Malta was second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you, board members. Appreciate it.
This brings us back to case 6, Robert and Kathy Giacone. This is an application to install a pool heater within the required rear yard setback where 10 feet is required and 1 foot is proposed. Block 3, lot 2910 Arno Street, Oakhurst, Zone R5. Mr. Giacone, are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You can hear me now?
I can. Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Mr. Giacone, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address.
Robert Giacone, 10 Arno Street, Oakhurst, New Jersey.
Okay. Mr. Giacone, please tell us what you plan to do.
We need to install a gas fired pool heater. When we originally bought the house back in 1977, we were able to use solar cover, but the trees have now grown to the point where I get little to no sun. So we need to put in a gas-fired pool heater. And I believe Mr. Higgins drafted a letter to the board. He was nice enough to spend about a half hour with me going through the whole procedure. I've relied on Amy Stewart for getting this package put together in a presentation to you. Unfortunately, this morning, my wife and I received a 2-page letter from the office of William Fitzgerald, making reference to some items of concern. One of the items that he listed was a survey that did not have a date on it. And I immediately called Amy Stewart this morning and asked her to look at the one in the file. And it's clearly marked December 9th, 1971, which is when the swimming pool was installed. The second item was, I don't know where Mr. Fitzgerald got the idea that we were putting in a heat pump, which is electric. We have no intent in putting in an electric heat pump. It's more efficient to fuel it with natural gas, and there is no noise issue with natural gas because it does not have a motor or a fan. So there should not be a noise issue. The third issue is I did not meet with Mr. Fitzgerald. He indicates in the letter, which really isn't signed, but it's dated the 13th of this month. I just got it this morning, and it's unsigned, but it says that someone from his office, or maybe Mr. Fitzgerald himself, was on my property and I didn't know it, which is fine by me. But I think Mr. Higgins pretty much has everything that needs to be done and said on this matter. So I guess I leave it in your hands at this point.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, and Mr. Giaccone, I have no problem with your heater. What I had to refer to was simply a photocopy of a portion of the survey with a red dot on it. Okay, so I did not have the whole survey, which is fine. No one's complaining about that because we don't require homeowners to have a survey. Just a photocopy and their own site plan sketch is fine. So I didn't refer to anything incorrectly. Having said that, I did not have any information on what you're putting in. So I just wanted to caution the board because I read Mr. Higgins' report and I totally agree with it, except that I'm happen to do right now an application for one of my clients, and sound is a big issue. So I'm just happen to be acutely aware of it, and I'm looking at your application. I don't have a board problem with the board approving it based on your testimony. We certainly believe you. We have no reason to come in and not be honest. If you'll submit a cut sheet of the mechanical equipment that you're going to install that just demonstrates what you're saying, that the sound levels are non-existent or low or whatever. So that's all. No, I have no problem with it. But I did not have the.
I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you?
That's okay.
Okay. When I spoke to Amy Stewart and others in her office, I asked if I could file a construction permit at this time, and she said, "Don't bother, delay that for now because they won't look at it until after your office does your approval." The construction permit asks for the specs on the unit that I'm going to be installing. There was nothing in Amy Stewart's paperwork that she sent to me asking for specs now. I'd be more than happy to drop by her office tomorrow and drop off the specs. The only thing I can tell you, I was
That would be outstanding.
I'm sorry, what?
I said that would be outstanding. I'm suggesting that the board approve your application subject to you doing that. And we move on.
Okay, so maybe I ought to just shut up.
Let's more right now.
Okay, well, I really want to thank Mr. Higgins because he spent the time with me and he looked at everything and we ran every possibility to do this any way possible. And I want to personally thank Mr. Higgins. So thank you, Mr. Higgins.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Mr. Higgins, do you have anything else to say?
No, other than.
No, Mr. Janicone, just wait a minute. Mr. Higgins, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think where they're proposing to put it is the most logical place on the site to put it.
Okay, good.
I think approving it subject to him submitting documentation that the sound levels are going to comply with the state requirements, I think makes sense.
Okay. Mr. Fitzgerald, you're good, right?
I'm good. I believe everything Mr. Jacon said. It just didn't have the information. So.
Okay. Does anyone from the board have any questions? Does anyone from the public have any questions? Would someone like to close the public hearing?
I would.
Public hearing.
I'll second, Mr. Royal.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shephaka.
Yes. Action on this?
I offer for a positive resolution to go forward to install a gas-fired pool heater.
I need a second.
Second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shephaka.
Yes. Thank you very much. You're good to go.
Thank you very much. Amy, I will call you in the morning if it's okay. And you can tell me
Sounds
what, if
good.
anything else I got to do.
Okay.
And I thank you all very much again.
Come on, let's get this last case, okay?
Okay.
So I can go to bed.
Everybody move for your food.
You're gonna get ice cream.
I'm going to after this. Phyllis, this brings us to our last case. Phyllis Lockwood, Block 138, Lot 150, 1133 Interlaken Avenue, Ocean, New Jersey, R5. This is an application to construct a covered front porch with a minimum front yard setback where 30 feet is required and where 17.5 is proposed. Ms. Lockwood, if you can wake up, we can get this done.
If I had only known, I've never been to one of these. I had no idea. I sat here at 7:15 introducing myself. I thought it was just me.
Wait. Are you Phyllis Lockwood?
I am.
Why does it say Phyllis? Never mind. Raise your right hand, please.
Yeah. Phyllis is a woman's name, yes.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please state your name and address.
Phyllis Lockwood Geis, 1133 Interlaken Avenue, Ocean, New Jersey, 07712.
Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay.
I could not figure out why you were sitting there all night.
I couldn't either.
She was trying to talk on the earlier application. We wouldn't let her.
Yeah.
I actually had no clue. I had no idea it went before this level of detail. So
Okay,
I learned a
so,
lot.
please tell us what you are planning to do.
So I kind of did this on my own, and again with Amy and help from the ladies in the department where Ron works. And I didn't really, I don't have any slides or anything. I just wanted to put a front porch. I've moved in 28 years ago, and I've been wanting to put a front porch. I wanted to put it all the way in front, and I finally settled and said I'm just going to do it due to some personal issues this year. And so I just decided that I was going to put it on the front door part. And the reasons are a couple. One is I love sitting out front, and now I'm retired and getting older, and I can't sit on the concrete step anymore. So I wanted a little bit of space to put some chairs. And two is I have very old friends and parents. My mother just turned 91. I have an 88 and a 90-year-old friend that come over, and I had no railings. I had no overhang, nothing to protect them. And so I've just always wanted one, and I didn't really know that it was more than me just wanting it. I didn't know I had to get approvals and everything to do that. So, that's what I did. I cut it down to just be, I guess it's 10 feet there in front of my house, and I want to be able to put 2 chairs out there. That's all.
Sounds nice. And it's also protection in the wintertime so you don't slip when it snows.
Cover. Yeah.
And is the front porch going to match the siding of your house?
Porch? Well, the front porch will be my siding is gray, so the front porch will be black railings and what do you call that? Treads or can't think of the word. It would begin with a T.
Track.
Yes. Yeah.
How about the roof? Will be the same color as the roof back.
Yes, the roof will match the house.
That's it. Okay, good. And the rest will blend.
Mr. Higgins, do you have anything to say?
No, I think what she's doing makes sense. It doesn't change the front of the house very much, but it does actually improve the appearance of the front of the house. And it's consistent with other houses in the immediate area of the site. I think it's a good thing, having something out front where people can sit and socialize with their neighbors, I think is definitely a benefit.
Some of my neighbors did that, and they look so nice.
Mr. Fitzgerald, do you have anything?
This is another environmental impact statement required for this.
I'm already catching on to you.
It's past his bedtime. That's all
the sound of people talking.
I am cranky by now, I'm telling you.
It's past his bedtime.
Amy, can you please mute Mr. Fitzgerald for the rest of the evening?
Any questions from the board?
Oh.
No questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Action?
I'll move for a positive resolution, Malta.
Second.
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you all.
Mr. Shepherd, before you run out for your ice cream,
I'm not running out. I'd like to thank everybody for coming and I'd like to thank you for staying up this late.
Well, I'd also like to say, based upon the last 6 applications, it sounds like Amy needs a raise.
Okay,
I'll
we need
second that.
Mr.
I'm
Van
leaving. I
Wagner now.
guess. Am I finished?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have one more point of interest, which we need to make a motion on, which was the mayor and council appointed CME Engineering as our conflict engineers, and that was a little overarching on their part. Both the zoning board of adjustment and the planning board will have to do it individually because we are autonomous boards. So therefore, I'm asking for a motion from anyone on the board to appoint CMA Engineering as our conflict engineers.
I make a motion, we appoint CMA Engineering as our conflict engineers. Morel.
I would second that. Van Wagner.
Okay.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Malta,
Yes.
Mr. Van Wagner,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Eskenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes.